amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are very, very important. Someday, many years from now, when you're a grown-up, you'll be a man. And when you are, you should be a gentleman. Do you want me to go through it one more time?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If a door's shut, then knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't speak with your mouth full, don't reach across people's plates, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. While we're at it, don't stare, don't use foul language, don't call people names, but do remember people's names. Always share your toys, play nice, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give up your seat to anyone who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds. And most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
Or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals. But I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi, I'd like to report a bear hug.
Uh-huh, okay.
Well, We were building a bonfire, and I saw some, dry brush and leaves around, so, I said to move the bonfire somewhere else, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear shows up and hugs me.
So you noticed some wildfire hazards and moved your bonfire to a safer location.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Smokey, all right. He likes it when people help prevent wildfires. It hits him close to home. Not everybody gets the hug, my friend. So that's pretty special to get a hug from Smokey Bear.
So it was him. Hey, guys, I told you it was Smokey.
Okay, well, congratulations, my friend. And thanks for calling. There are many ways to prevent a wildfire. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Tell the world I see with an emoji to stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth? You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel?
Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing? I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What are you talking about?
No, it's not him. There is only one more. There is only one more. That's it. One more.
Get her ass!
No!
They saw your team put up zero effort.
Wake up!
Remember in the old days, they used to have oxygen for them. Where's the oxygen?
Play like absolute just garbage.
This is the Sports Loudmouths.
Yay!
Man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to introduce here. With Errol Marks and Speedy Beatty.
You're not even a has-been. You're a never was. You're a never was. January 5th, 2023, 631-672-3108 is the number. You can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. What's up, Speed?
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to the family of a guest we had on the show that I should have mentioned yesterday, unfortunately passing away. That was Uche Nwaneri, a guy we had back in October, unfortunately passing away of a heart attack at 38 years old. So my
nice guy too.
Yeah, one of the best interviews we ever had. A fantastic guy. Was really doing well with his YouTube page. Very self-conscious on a lot of different NFL issues for a lot of the former players. A lot of the stuff we were discussing yesterday with the CTE and all the injuries. And a great guy, fantastic personality. Very sad.
Actually, I was told, when we were driving home that he passed away. So it's crazy. It really is. But may he rest in peace. A shout out to his family. And Uche was a nice guy. He really was. 38 years old, died from a heart attack, massive heart attack.
So sad.
His wife found him in the hotel room. So
yes.
It's a really, really sad situation. But shout out to his family. May he rest in peace. At 9:30, we'll be talking to former Falcons, Cowboys, and Jets defensive tackle Tony Casillas. And at 10 o'clock, we'll be talking to Browns, Lions, and Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden, who is now working as a politician. And very, very nice guy. Leigh Bodden was there with the butt fumble. We spoke about that the last time he was on the show. So I'm sure he has a lot of stories that we really didn't get into the last time we had him on the show, but he's such a nice guy. So looking forward to getting him on again. Mike LaFleur says that Zach Wilson would have benefited from sitting during his rookie season. No duh. Okay. And we all know what rookies turn out to be if they sit out for their rookie season. One of them, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers sat out 3 years before he got a chance to play and took over for Brett Favre. You look at Jordan Love right now, who's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, is probably going to be a pretty good quarterback. So Jalen Hurts sat behind a couple of quarterbacks before he got his starting opportunity. So a lot of quarterbacks benefit for sitting on the bench and learning from the veterans. So I absolutely believe it. So we'll get into that. Bills-Bengals game officially canceled. NFL with many different proposals on the playoff scenario. So the NFL, there's so many different proposals right now, maybe making an 8 seed, which I don't like that. And it pretty much tells you that the number 1 seed won't have a bye. The number 1 seed would play the 8 seed and have a chance to decide if, where they want to play or something like that. So I don't like these, specs and speculations, but I don't know. Maybe the NFL is trying to change it because of the whole Hamlin thing. I understand it. It just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. Dolphins GM Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel could be on the hot seat if they lose versus the Jets. You know why? Because Jim Harbaugh is available. And that's why. Everybody knows that the Dolphins were going after Jim Harbaugh over the last couple of years. He decided to stay in Michigan. Now, all of a sudden, he comes out and says that he's probably moving to the NFL if the right offer comes along. So why not Miami saying that they're going to fire this young coach who I think has had a very good season. So I don't understand it. Cardinals very likely to fire Kliff Kingsbury, according to several reports. I'm not surprised. If you're watching Hard Knocks, I think he's lost the locker room. SNY's Ian Begley believes the Knicks could be in the market to trade for Zach LaVine. We have been listening to this, and Zach LaVine, when he became a free agent about 2 years ago, the Knicks were very interested in Zach LaVine. He decided to re-sign with Chicago. Chicago has really not been the team they were a couple of years ago, and really for the last, I would say, half a year have not looked that good. So I think they're going to look to move on from Zach LaVine. I don't know if he's going to the Knicks, but I'm sure there'll be more than enough teams interested in going after a good player like Zach LaVine. We will get into our Week 18 picks. Last week, I was 12-3. Derek and Speedy were 10-5. What was Jeff?
Jeff was also 12-3.
I'm sure he's bragging about that, but we'll get into it.
Stuck says Jim Harbaugh's going to Baltimore. It's going to cause some real problems at Thanksgiving. That would be funny, but odds are that's not going to happen. Carl also said he came out and said he's staying in Michigan.
Did he say that?
He made a statement that he looks like he is going to stay that way, but you never know. That could be a smokescreen.
Money talks.
Yeah.
And if the Miami Dolphins or the Broncos or any of these teams offer him a ton of money, why would he stay in Michigan? So I understand that he said that, but it could be a smoke show. We've seen this before. We've seen college coaches say that they're staying where they're staying put, and they never stay put. So
right.
I don't kind of believe Jim Harbaugh. So, I mean, I remember when Jim Harbaugh said that he was going to stay in the NFL after he was fired from San Francisco, and then he wound up going to Michigan. So I don't know. We'll see. So why don't we get into it? The whole Bills and Bengals thing. I know the NFL is trying to figure out specs that make sense because it's not fair to the Bills because the Bills are actually going to take a loss for this game because they didn't want to go back to Cincinnati after what happened to Damar Hamlin. And you look at the specs and the stipulations that the NFL is trying to put for this year's playoffs. I mean, I don't believe there should be an 8 seed, okay? Because you're telling me a 7-9 team can make the playoffs. I don't like it. We've seen this before. I don't like it. And you're also telling me that if Pittsburgh loses against Cleveland and the Jets beat Miami, they make the playoffs. And to me, I don't want to see the Jets get a hand-me-down to go to the playoffs just because the NFL is adding an 8 seed. So I understand what the NFL is trying to do. I understand why they're doing it. But I also understand that the whole Damar Hamlin thing was an accident. And I know the NFL is trying to make the playoff more interesting to watch, more games, obviously. So more money, more games, more revenue. Now we sit here today, and what are the stipulations right now? The specs that they're looking at right now.
So there's many different options. You mentioned the 18 playoffs where no team would get a bye, which would nullify the fact of getting the number 1 seed. Which again, if the Bills were to quote unquote take a loss, they would not get the 1 seed. So they're trying to make it more fair because it was a 7-3 game of hypotheticals. The other one would be thought of as a neutral site AFC championship game.
Here's my problem here. Why did the Bengals get a win on that? Because they had a 7-3 lead and the Buffalo Bills don't want to go back to Cincinnati? That's not the Buffalo Bills problem.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
I think it should be a tie.
Yeah.
I thought the Bengals and the Bills should have a tie. But the Bills obviously do not want to play in Cincinnati again after what happened to Damar Hamlin. So they're giving the Bills the loss. So now the Bengals, I think, have the same record as the Bills.
Yeah, they would have if they won that game. Now, again, right now, if they were to take a tie,
is it a tie or a loss? Because I heard the Buffalo Bills are going to take a loss.
Well, yeah, if they took a loss, then yes, they would have the same record, which means the Bills would ultimately fall to the 3 seed, which would not be fair in that case either. So I think that's why they ended up looking at this 8 seed scenario. Or there's another one too, where the number 1 and number 2 seeds would choose either the bye or home field advantage, but not both. So whoever gets the bye would end up getting the home game later on, or the 2 seed would get the home game later on, but they would have to play an extra game. So which do they choose from there would be another question. And then I guess what Ben was saying yesterday is still in play, whether they would do a potential algorithm with those 3 teams.
I don't agree with that.
I don't know
either.
how they would be able to do that.
I think they should go from the old college days where they flip a coin. The top 3 teams in the AFC should flip a coin. Kansas City obviously they have the number 1 seed right now, so they would flip whoever flips with the Bills and the Bengals. Whoever wins that coin flip would get a chance to flip against Kansas City, and whoever wins that gets the number 1, number 2, or number 3 seed. That's what I think should happen. But the NFL, they're all about bringing new terms and new stuff to the league, and they think that this is going to benefit. Now, if this does work, if there's an 8 seed that makes the playoffs, do they do that every single year now? And that's a good question, because if it works out and the NFL is making an extra $1 billion, I don't know, not billion, but extra $50 million from that game, or $20 million from that game, why wouldn't they bring an 8 seed every single year for a wild card spot? I think 7 seeds are more than enough, more than sufficient. The way the NFL is moving in that category, they added the extra wild card after the last couple of years, adding the other 2 wild cards. You have 3 wild cards. Why should you have 4? It's pretty much telling these teams, it doesn't matter how bad you are in a regular season. All you got to do is sneak in. You have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I was bad. I was against the 7 as it was. I thought 6 was a good number as it was, because you got a lot of good wild card 6 seeds that were 10-6 and were actually quality teams. Once you got to the 7 seed, really none of them have been competitive so far in their playoff games. Besides the Colts, the first year against the Bills, where that game was pretty close. I think it was 27-24. None of the other 7 seeds have hung tough at all, because a lot of times 9 and 8 teams getting in there. Now, again, that might have still happened in the NFC as well.
Check out what the posts are and check it out like I told you. But as everybody knows, we will have at 9:30, we'll be talking to Falcons, Cowboys, and Jets defensive tackle Tony Casillas. So he will be joining us again. We haven't had him on for about 6 months. And at 10 o'clock, we will be talking to ex-Patriot Browns and Lions cornerback Leigh Bodden, who I think Leigh Bodden was drafted by, if I'm not mistaken, the Patriots.
By the Browns. He was with the Patriots later. That was the butt fumble. That was the butt fumble game, was in 2012, and that was his last year in the league, actually.
So the scenario with the NFL with this 8 seed is interesting. I don't know how the NFL is going to work with this. And again, I understand the Buffalo Bills. They don't want to go back to Cincinnati. They don't want to deal with the situation that they dealt with on Sunday night. And again, I really think they should have played this week's that game on Thursday night and moved their game for their final game to both their final games to the next Thursday. And that's what I thought the NFL should do. They should be playing the game. Every other team was playing a game. You're giving the Bengals and you're giving the Buffalo Bills a chance to recuperate. Now, I understand with the DeMar Hamlin thing. I understand they don't want to play in Cincinnati, but it has to be some kind. It's got to be fair. And I wouldn't push the Buffalo Bills to play in it. And obviously, the Buffalo Bills are not getting pushed to play. So they have decided that they'd rather not play in the game. So I look at the benefits to this situation with the NFL. The 8 seeds in the NFC and the AFC are going to benefit from this. I don't see how, and the NFL benefits from it. I don't know how the other teams that are getting in as the 8 seed. Could you imagine an 8 seed win a Super Bowl?
I mean, yeah, again, it seems unlikely, but again, you're looking at a case.
Why? We have seen wild card teams, six seed wild card teams win.
I know, but the 7 and 8 seeds the 7 seeds so far in that sample haven't been great lately. So yeah, you're right. It's usually a lot of 6 seeds are good teams that just lose out on tiebreakers and maybe just miss the division. And we've seen, yeah, you're right. We've seen that a good amount. Again, it's on the Packers were a good team that, again, just missed out because of a lot of the injuries, and they got in on a tiebreaker later over the Giants. So, again, there's a lot of cases of that where that's quality. 5 seeds are quality a lot of the time, too. It's I don't know about 7 and 8. It's already a lot as it is, and a lot of them really haven't been that successful so far.
And I'm interested to see how the NFL is going to work this. And what do they have? A couple of hours, 24 to 48 hours to
It was
decide
supposed
how
to
they're
come
going
out
to
at
do?
6, but I haven't seen anything yet.
So,
which they're actually going through. Adam Schefter's Twitter hasn't confirmed anything yet, but yeah, those are the 3 scenarios they're looking at right now. Now, the 8 seed with that is the most fair to not having the buys, but at the same time, yeah, do you want to let in another team that doesn't deserve to make the playoffs? I don't know. That's another question. Yes, Ben, the game is officially canceled.
It's not going to be rescheduled, and I think what I've read is the Bills are going to take a loss. They're going to take a loss, and the Bengals get the win. And now the question is how does this work at the end of the season? You know, at the last game of the season, if the Bengals and the Bills wind up with the same record, the Bengals would have the tiebreaker because they beat the Bills. So how is that fair?
Right, and the Chiefs would have lost to both teams technically too. So I mean, they're right now sitting at a 1 seed by a half game, just having played their game and won. So yeah, there's none of it that makes sense. So actually, something did come out from Schefter too. There's 3 different scenarios. Buffalo and Kansas City would both win or both tie. Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game would be a neutral site. So I guess these are all pending different results at the moment. Buffalo and Kansas City both lose, and Baltimore wins or ties. I guess in week 18, a Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game would be a neutral site, because I guess that would imply the Ravens might have won the division over the Bengals too. And then scenario 3, Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Cincinnati wins. A Buffalo versus Cincinnati or Kansas City championship game would be a neutral site. If Baltimore defeats Cincinnati in week 18 and would have defeated Cincinnati, a divisional opponent, twice, but not be able to host a playoff game because Cincinnati still has a higher winning percentage. And then those 2 teams would play again a wild card game against one another too, if they would play each other. So I guess the Ravens and Bengals could play 3 times.
I don't like that. I don't like how they're maneuvering the playoffs. I like the 7 seeds. Adding an 8 seed is just going to mess everything up. It doesn't make any sense. Who do we have on the phone? Kenny, what's up, man? Kenny?
Whoa.
What's up, man?
Somebody lost a bet.
Yeah, I lost a bet, and I pay up my bets. Somebody else hasn't paid up a bet in 4 or 5 years, but I pay up my bets.
We went double or nothing, so that...
Yeah, okay. Did you double or nothing what? Double or nothing, so what does that mean? We did double or nothing.
I won.
Okay, double or nothing. So what do I get from the double or nothing?
No, we went double or nothing.
We went double or nothing, yes.
And you lost.
Yes, I lost. And for 4 or 5 years, you didn't take any turkey dinner to us. Listen, I pay up my bets, Kenny. You don't. So I will stick to my promises, because that's what I do. What you do is you don't stick to your bets, and you like smoking your wax, you like drinking your booze, and you like to run after geese.
I actually just quit smoking weed. So
really? Good for you. Congratulations. Why did you stop smoking weed?
Just decided to take a break.
Take a break? What are you doing that you need to take a break? Do you smoke every second of the day?
No, it's just I decided to quit.
Okay. Listen, I think that's great. That's great. Do you still drink?
Occasionally, yeah.
Occasionally. Okay. Well, I will say this, Kenny. As long as you don't get high and you run after geese, I think you're a pretty straight man, and I'm pretty straightforward with everything that I've said to you. I promised you that I would do that. I will figure out what giant or ex-giant that I will have that'll go out to dinner with you, and I will pay for the dinner.
Current number 5 is a good.
I don't know about it current. I can't reach out to Daniel Jones and say, "Hey, Daniel Jones, you want to go out with Kenny
I didn't
Rayner?"
say Daniel
No,
Jones.
he said 5, complying Thibodeau.
Oh, Thibodeau. Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying like it could be a rookie. Jones is no rookie.
Okay.
Yes, and Thibodeau is a rookie. That would qualify.
And how do you think I'm going to get a hold of Thibodeau, Kayvon Thibodeau? How do you think I'm going to do that? Now, I obviously could do press stuff with the Giants next year. I could do that, but I'd rather do it sometime in this summer, and I'll figure it out. It'll probably be an ex-Giant that I'll have you sit down for dinner with, maybe a Brandon Jacobs or somebody of that magnitude, where I will pay for dinner.
Amazing.
Yes. You see, because I stick to my bets and I follow through with my bets, unlike some people we know.
Keith Rudy in our comment section says, Kenny, I could never tell you to smoke the doobage.
The doobage. You like the doobie, Do you remember the commercial with the penguin for hockey? Doobie, doobie doo. Remember that?
Yeah.
You don't remember that?
Yeah.
I don't
remember that.
No,
I think that was what kind of beer was that? It was something ice, but that was a Canadian brand.
Molson?
Maybe it was Molson
Okay.
Ice, but Kenny, I'll stick to my bet. It's good that you stopped smoking weed. I mean, that's a good thing. I think the wax was burning a hole in your brain.
Possibly.
Snug also says, you just call the Giants front office and say it's Kenny. That dude will be stoked to go to dinner with Kenny. Yes, Kenny, you would be an upgrade over the Kenny that's making way too much money and not catching a pass.
I don't think anybody's going to know who Kenny is.
And he's still an upgrade over Galladay.
And as soon as they find out he runs after geese, in his spare time, they probably run from him.
Which is still better route running than Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, that's true, too. So, I mean, Kenny, you're a very unique individual, and you're pretty tall. I mean, what are you, 6'5"? Could you imagine a 6'5" guy
6'5".
running 6'5" running after a goose? Could you imagine that? I mean, that's must-see TV. I mean, seriously. I mean, how about Kenny running after Jeff? How about that? I mean, I think Kenny could outrun Jeff. I do, and he's longer than Jeff, so that would be really, really funny seeing Jeff run from Kenny. Kenny, you think you could run after Jeff? Maybe. What do you think he's worth running after, or is it just a waste of space?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
All right. Oh, we have a request, Kenny. Keith wants to know the chasing geese story. You never heard it before. Come on, Kenny.
I don't think he wants to talk about it, but I can tell the story. But Kenny, we will talk. We will speak again. You did win the bet, and I follow through with my bet, so you will.
And the Jets aren't making the playoffs.
Well, not necessarily now, because
there is a small chance because there's an 8th playoff team.
There is an eighth playoff team, and if the Jets win on Sunday and Pittsburgh loses,
and
the Patriots lose, the Jets make the playoffs, which is crazy. Do I want to see that? No, but will it happen? Possibly. I mean, I've seen crazier things.
Slim chance, but it's possible.
Why is it slim chance? It could happen.
Point.
I'm sorry?
In this crazy season, right?
It's a crazy season, and the Jets had a very hard schedule, and hopefully next year, with the way the schedule is set up for them, they'll have an opportunity to do, have a better season. And that's why I have a bet with Brandon Jacobs, and I think I have a chance of winning next year. So we'll see. We'll see who the quarterback for the New York Jets is going to be. But Kenny, thank you for calling, bud.
All right. Thank you for owning up on your bet.
I do. I own up on my bets, unlike some people
right.
you know. Kenny Rayner. Kenny from White Plains, New York. Interesting cat. He is an interesting man. He really is. And I do. I follow through with my bets, and I think that Kenny wants to meet an ex-Giant, and there's a couple of ex-Giants that I know that he knows, and I will speak to them over the next couple of months. And when they come up, if it's Brandon Jacobs, whenever he comes up here for the summertime, I will maybe have Brandon go out to dinner with Kenny.
Brandon Jacobs and Kenny.
Oh,
what a combination.
Actually, Kenny is taller than Brandon Jacobs.
Yes, I know.
Could you imagine Brandon Jacobs is, meeting Kenny and looking up? I couldn't imagine that, because look at his son. His son's a massive man. He's 6'6", 280 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It really is. But Kenny from White Plains.
And again, he still has enough time to bulk up to 300 before he gets to college. So he's got 2 more years.
Mike LaFleur says Zach Wilson would have benefited from sitting as a rookie. I'm only going to say this once, because I'm not going to go over this and over this and over this. Everybody knows what I think about the whole Zach Wilson situation. Zach Wilson should have sat the first year his rookie season. The reason why he didn't sit is because the Jets didn't have a proper backup. And that you could blame on Joe Douglas if you really want to blame him. There was that offseason. I don't think the Jets could bring in an elite quarterback or a good backup quarterback that could take over as the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. So Zach Wilson would have been better off learning behind, I don't like Joe Flacco. I know a lot of people said they could have brought Joe Flacco in. Joe Flacco was washed up. When Zach Wilson was drafted, he was washed up. That's why the Jets decided to let him go and then bring him back with a 6th-round draft pick. They needed a good backup, a quality veteran backup quarterback that can help Zach Wilson on the bench. Now, he obviously didn't. But again, I still think that the Jets are going to go in the offseason. They're going to have to decide what they're doing with this kid. I could sit here and argue the points on why Zach Wilson should have another chance. I could also argue that the Jets, while he's still 23 years old and you still have control of him for the next, I would say, 3 years, and a team could get more out of having him sit on the bench and then for one more year, and then either turning him as a starting quarterback or letting him compete for the starting quarterback position. The Jets try to trade him and get as much as they possibly can for him. For Mike LaFleur to say that he would have benefited from it, I think everybody and their mother would have said that Zach Wilson would have benefited if he sat the bench. He is not confident, and I've listened to a lot of Jet fans on social media say that Zach Wilson in the second half last year looked a lot better than he did this year when he came back from his knee injury. And maybe so. Maybe it was a confidence level. Maybe it was something that, the tabloids with the whole girlfriend thing going into the offseason. Maybe, him sleeping with his mom's best friend. I don't know what it was. But Zach Wilson wasn't Zach Wilson when he was drafted as the 2nd pick right behind Trevor Lawrence. Everybody thought that this kid was going to be a valuable piece to the New York Jets in their future. He hasn't really turned out to be that. Now, that doesn't mean, and everything that we've read, what Robert Saleh has said, what Joe Douglas has said, is that expect Zach Wilson on this roster next year. I also believe that they're just saying that as a smokescreen, just like Jim Harbaugh said, that he'll go back to the Wolverines. I do believe that if the Jets could get the right offer, they will trade Zach Wilson in the offseason. Mm-hmm. I do. I believe it.
Yeah, again, we have to see if these rumors that came out last week are going to be more true than not. I still think you can get a 3rd-round pick depending on where it is and depending on what coach comes in to these other teams, especially what we were talking about earlier. If the Dolphins do get rid of Mike McDaniel, maybe Mike McDaniel thinks he could do something with Zach Wilson somewhere else. I don't know if that's the case. We've heard Kyle Shanahan be very interested in Zach Wilson. That was his disciple. So maybe that's a possibility if the offer is there, because there are still some teams that need quarterbacks that might give up a 3rd. I don't know if you're going to get more than that unless you see some improvement.
Again, I don't know what the Jets are going to do with him. I understand Mike LaFleur. Mike LaFleur should be fired at the end of the season.
I think so, too.
He should be fired. There is no way the Jets keep Mike LaFleur. And I've been hearing rumors, with the New York Jets in the organization that Woody Johnson is not happy with Robert Saleh and he's not happy with Mike LaFleur. So I don't know what's going to happen. We all know that if Jim Harbaugh becomes available, if he is really available, even though he says he's going back to the Wolverines, if he does become available, we all know Woody Johnson, like Jim Harbaugh. They interviewed Jim Harbaugh. So that could possibly happen. But I do believe they're going to sit on Robert Saleh for at least another year and see what Robert Saleh could do. This defense had a very good season. Their first half was really dominant, especially at front 7, and then they fell apart in the second half. The last 5 games of the season, the defense really didn't show up in certain parts of the game, especially in the fourth quarter. And you can't win football games. You can't win close football games the way the Jets played in the fourth and at the end of the third quarters this past year. And remember, in the first half of the season, the Jets were the best fourth quarter team in the NFL.
Yeah.
They were the best fourth quarter team in the NFL in the first 8 games. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. They fell apart in the second half, and it really, I blame the New England Patriots. I do, because ever since the first New England Patriots game and Franklin Myers and that bad penalty, it really changed the whole thought to where the Jets were going to go in the second half of the season. So I think when you look at this offseason, the Jets are going to have to really decide what they're doing with Zach Wilson and what they're doing with Mike LaFleur. I think this team is good enough. I think this good team is good enough to compete against the elite teams in the AFC that are making the playoffs this year. They really, when you look at what the Jets have done, besides the last 2 or 3 games, the Jets were in every single game. The Minnesota game, they were in. The Buffalo Bills, second half of the game, they were in that game. They were in every single game except the last 2 or 3 games. So I don't know what happened to them. I think it's a lack of confidence. I think the defense lost confidence, but they still have Sauce coming back next year. They're going to have to figure out what they're doing with some of these contracts with Mosley, and they have to pay Quinnen Williams this offseason.
Yep.
Quincy Williams is going to get paid this offseason. He's been the Jets' best linebacker on the team this year. So a lot of these players are going to have to get paid, and the Jets, I think, have $38 million or $41 million.
Yeah, I think it's 39.
39, but a lot of players are coming off. Corey Davis will probably come off in the offseason. There'll be certain players that are coming off the roster. So the Jets will have some money. They're going to have to pay their own players, and maybe they bring in a veteran player here and there, but they're not going to be superstar players. They don't have the money to do that. Yeah. So when we come back, we will be talking to our friend, former Falcons, Cowboys, Jets defensive tackle, Tony Casillas, here on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is the Sports Loudmouths.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. I'm your host, Daryl Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. 631-672-3108 is the number. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows, our live shows throughout the week, as we have some new shows. Game On, that will be airing tomorrow with Josh Silverberg. We're adding some new shows in the new year, so definitely stay tuned. We've been around for 9 years. We've had quite a few really good shows on our network that have moved forward in the past and have gone on to bigger and better things. So we're happy to be here. And we have our first guest of the day, and we had him on last year, I think in the beginning of the year. We are now talking to former Falcons, Cowboys, and Jets defensive tackle, Tony Casillas. Tony, what's up, man?
I'm doing good, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man. And I've been following you on Instagram. You go to a lot of different places, a lot of events. You play golf. You do so many different things. And you have 2 beautiful children, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, that all to my wife, by the way.
Oh, look at you. Complimenting the woman. But how are you and your family doing from the whole COVID-19 situation?
We're doing great. It's great to be able to kind of have some normalcy, and it's starting off a new year, and really just you look back in the rearview mirror, and it's kind of hard to imagine what we went through, that whole debacle when it comes to going through COVID. And it's been a great year so far, and I just hope 2023 is better than 2022 for not just our family, but your family and everyone else's family.
I had a lot of craziness in 2022, so I very much hope that 2023 is better than 2022. But why don't we get into it? Obviously, the Damar Hamlin thing was just shocking. I've never seen that. I've been watching football for 30 years. I'm 40 years old, actually over 30 years. I think I started watching football when I was 7, so 33 years. I've never seen anything like that, and I think they said there was 1 out of 250 million chances that could have happened. So it's something that you never seen before. What were your thoughts when you saw something like that on the football field?
Well, it's interesting because, I was watching the game with my wife and my son. My son's 22, and he played football, and obviously he knows about my career. And I was just, like everyone, it sent chills down my spine to see something like that transpire. I think more is just to see the reaction of the players and just the whole element. Like, it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. And I don't think that that's, it's unprecedented. We've heard, the last few days about the events that turn. And I just know as a former player, you don't think about those things until you see one of your brothers on the field, whether it's from a concussion, which we've heard this, people former players, and during the broadcast, wait for that sign. They're like, I'm good. And as far as paralysis and everything. And, but to see that happen, and really just a dawning moment for everyone. And I think that's kind of stops you in your tracks and just kind of makes everyone reevaluate how violent and how malicious the game can be, although it wasn't a malicious hit, but just the risk that you take. And I just felt for him. I just felt for the people that had to watch that. And, all of a sudden we're in this survival mode. And, I think that was really the reality of the things that unfolded, is that as a player, a former player, whatever the case, current player, that you realize how risky the business of playing football is. And I'm just glad it just seems like he's trending he's getting better. We hear all the story. And I think that's another thing, guys, is that there's so much unknown that we didn't know about. And people, just like anyone, that humanity is like, we just want to make sure the person is going to be okay. And at that point, no one knew what the outcome was going to be. It was just something that's never happened. We've never seen that. It's like it was like watching a bad movie. And it was very nightmarish. And again, it was just, when you have your son next to you asking, Dad, this really hits home to you. I was like, yeah, it does, because you know that, what you go through, and just the whole behind the curtain and the emotions and everything you go through. And you don't think about that. You think about maybe spraining an ankle, getting an ACL, concussion's bad enough, but you don't think about someone giving you CPR and you're fighting for your life.
Yeah. He was actually out cold for like 6 minutes. He wasn't breathing for 6 minutes. So
exactly.
I don't know if he'll ever play football again. I mean, you could have brain damage. When you lose oxygen to your brain, a lot of parts of your body might never work the same way again. But happy that he's alive. I heard that he was squeezing his family members' hands and his eyes were open. So those are all good signs. The doctor says he's trending very quickly to be okay. So these are all good signs. And I think the NFL, I think the NFL did the right thing. I think they took too long. They canceled the game. I think they kept waiting and waiting. What were they waiting for? The guy almost died on a football field.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of what we're used to seeing, though, right? And, as much as some of the NFL is not proactive and more reactive, I just don't really think. And look, there's a lot of faults that you can cast stones and determine what was the best decision made, but. I just don't think anyone knew because it was just something that we'd never seen before. And look, those players are going to go out in the field. I just know as a player, my teammate or anyone, just having to see the trauma, I just don't think your heart would be into going out there playing the game of football. I mean, these are, it's humanity. Is it, football players, they have this bravado that, they have this armor and they're not supposed to feel and have feelings and just, just very invincible. But something like that happens. I know as a player, that's the least thing you want to do is get your emotions up and get into game mode, knowing that you don't know what's going on with one of your teammates, and that's secondary. So regardless how long it took them, but I understand the business of it. Obviously, they made the right decision, and now maybe we can move forward and continue and really just kind of get back to normalcy, but get in a way we understand that this game is so violent.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of the NFL has been criticized in the past too with the head injuries and other types of injuries and not really managing them properly.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Agreed on that. Yeah.
Is this another one of these cases where you think will help further potentially giving them that kind of either insurance or guarantee money, better benefits?
I think that there's and that's the thing about the NFL, that they've really, as I mentioned, they react on what happens. It doesn't, everything is like kind of going, in the right lane. But once it gets out of the lane, it's like we're going to deal with it, and knowingly that there's got to be something in place where there's some type of preventative, action, if you will. And I think that's kind of what the NFL has been all about all these years, through the concussions, through, things like this, which have really just a very, as you mentioned, not the chances this happen is minuscule. But the other things, NFL, it kind of like shies away and they just kind of avoid it, is another thing when you come to head trauma and the long-term deal. But, the thing about it's amazing how it gets people's attention. I'm sure you guys have talked about this on your show, but, Damar Hamlin had this toy drive set up for underprivileged kids. $2,500 was the last where the donations were. Now it's like $6 or $7 million in ongoing. So that's the human spirit behind it. But I think the NFL, they need to get behind the human spirit of the long term and how the game affects players and really the mental health of it. I mean, that's something that's talked about a lot. It's vogue to talk about the mental health of it and how it affects, and something like this happen. Not to expect your players, so just okay, let's go warm up in 5 minutes and let's go play. No, it's not like that, because this is kind of a lingering effect. So unfortunately, it takes things like this to happen to maybe get people's attention. But this is an anomaly. This thing has never happened, and we've never seen it. Fortunately, we didn't have to see it. Someone losing their life in the game on the field, which we experienced it. And hopefully that's, it looks like those things we don't have to worry about that. But I mean, it just reminds you how violent the game is.
We are talking to former Falcons, Cowboys, and Jets defensive tackle Tony Casillas. Tony, obviously with the Damar Hamlin thing, the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals are not playing in that game. They've decided to call it a tie, or maybe the Bills are going to take a loss. The NFL is still trying to figure it out. And now they're thinking about adding an 8 seed. They're trying to maneuver the playoffs. And I know the NFL likes this because you're adding an extra game, which gives you extra revenue and extra money. And the NFL is all about making money. So if the NFL is all about making money, why aren't they helping the players union and helping some of these former athletes with the situation of no benefits? And we spoke to Brandon Jacobs yesterday, and we spoke to
Chris
Draft yesterday about the fact that these players are not getting benefits for their lifetime after they retire from the game. Do you think that with the NFL adding all these extra games and with all the money and the proceeds and the endorsements that they're getting for the Super Bowl, eventually they're going to figure out something, the players union is going to figure out something to help these players?
Well, I just remember when I was an active player, and I always thought I was never going to become a guy in my 50s. And all I thought was about now and not about later. And knowing that what I know now and having to live through that, that was nothing that was, as a player, you're not really focused on that. And then I think really if you understand, you go back to what the players kind of like pioneered where we are now, it's one of the worst unions in all the 4 sports. And, the NFL concussion lawsuits that, players file, and it's not that you're trying to have like this money grab. I think the NFL with this whole type of concussion lawsuits, they kind of wait you out. It's like, we're going to wait until you're no longer here and, just play hardball. And they got such deep pockets. And yeah, I mean, they'll put programs in place, but it's so hard to navigate there and find them because you have to do all this, searching. I mean, it's not like this website where you can go to and like, I want this and this and that. You have to navigate your way through it. And
Tony, do you pay for benefits? Because Brandon Jacobs says he pays $2,500 a month just for himself in benefits. Do you pay for benefits?
Well, I mean, it just depends. If you're.
We might have lost Tony.
No, I'm here.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Let's say that that you don't work and you have to pay self-employment or pay for insurance out of your pocket. yeah, I mean, there's a vehicle in place, but it's going to come out of your pocket.
Right.
It's like anything different. If you're self-employed, you got to pay insurance for self-employment insurance. If you have a job, if your wife works or you work in a corporate job, you're going to get benefits that covers you. But as far as like the NFL saying, okay, you're going to have lifetime benefits, health insurance and everything, they don't cover that. That comes out of your pocket. The NFL does not give you anything, regardless if you think, there's a point where you think, yeah, I'm entitled to that because I played, I played for this company, and most companies, once they retire, they get lifetime benefits, but it's something that doesn't come with the price. And that's what the NFL does to try to fool the public and, try to, fool themselves. And it's ridiculous of where that has become. And so, yeah, I when it comes to that, I mean, it's something that just really strikes a nerve with a lot of former players because they don't do that. They're all worried about now. And as an active player, yeah, you're worried. You don't really think about that until you get older, and then there's nothing in place. But without a doubt, it's probably the worst unions in all the four professional sports that we have in that are ongoing now.
So I want to shift gears because you played with him both in Atlanta and in Dallas, and that's Deion Sanders. So what was he like on and off the field? And now with him going to Colorado, now taking over that head coaching job, getting a lot of transfers from that. What do you think about that whole experiment?
Man, I think Deion Sanders is the best thing right now going for college football. I think that he's, while he was a player, he's an unbelievable athlete. I've never seen a guy that could play baseball, hit a home run, get on a plane, and come back the next day and run a kickoff back for a touchdown. I mean, he's just a freak athlete. As far as him being genuine and what he does and what he says, I think it's great for a former player to be this active and be able to have a head coaching job at a major university, that being the University of Colorado. And I think that he understands. I think he does things, he kind of puts things, yokes things together between being a former player and being a player that was in college and really the reality of it. But I think it's transparent. I don't think I'm not going to say phony, but I think it's something that's very sincere. And I think he understands with the NIL and the transfer portal that there are some demands. And I think in the Pac-12 that you have someone like Deion, I always say this. I play for Barry Switzer, and he's a tremendous recruiter. I think Deion Sanders is going to be you look at some of the great recruiters in college football. Now with the NIL and the transfer portal, I think he's going to reinvent that whole new age of the Barry Switzers that can recruit in college football because he has that type of personality, sincerity. I mean, he's a tremendous motivator. And I think for me, he's sincere. And I think that a lot of players really understand the transparency of that because, there's a lot of coaches that it's hard to coach in college football because of the NIL, and especially the transfer portal, because you know how long you're going to get these guys, and you got to manage rosters. And I think it's good and bad. I think it's great for the players to get paid without a doubt. But there's got to be a commitment, at least, a year or two. And I think Deion will get that just because I think he's sincere. And really, I think what comes out of his mouth, which we all can sit here, we understand that sometimes that's not true words. It's all about recruiting. But I think that he is very, very charismatic and very good at talking and really hitting home with some of these athletes. And I think that they really he's a communicator, and they really respond to that. And I think that comes across as being really sincere.
We are talking to former Falcons, Cowboys, and Jets defensive tackle Tony Casillas. And I like Deion Sanders. I like what he's doing. He almost lost his foot a couple of years ago. I mean, he's been through so much stuff, and everybody says he owes Jackson State. He doesn't owe Jackson State anything. He went to Jackson State to help grow the program. He helped grow the program. He found, some of the top players in the country to come and play at Jackson State. And now he decided he wanted to go to Colorado and try to build that program. And I believe that in 2-3 years from now, if he does well in Colorado, he'll go to Miami. He'll go to Florida State. He'll upgrade. I don't think he's going to the NFL. Everything that I've read about Deion Sanders, he never wants to coach in the NFL, but I think the way he has built the coaching staff right now in Colorado, there are coaches on this Colorado team that could be coaches in NCAA or in the NFL right now. That's how good some of these college coaches that he's brought on, the offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinators. So I love what he's doing. Tony, why don't we get into your Dallas Cowboys? And the Dallas Cowboys right now, they have a pretty good record, and everybody's looking at their record. They're 12-4. And if things fall the right way, they could actually be the number one seed in the NFC. Are you surprised that the Cowboys have been this good this year? And do you think that the NFC East this year was really a wash because a lot of these teams in the NFC are not really that good this year?
Well, I don't know. I think that it's great to see the NFC back because we've kind of experienced the last few years. It's kind of been the NFC least, right, as far as the division. And I think it's great. I mean, you got the Eagles, you got the Cowboys, you got the Giants. And I really think these last two games of the season coming down the wire are going to be pretty intriguing. You got Washington playing Dallas, and you got the Giants playing the Phillies. So I think it's great for the NFC conference. I still don't. I think there's still some things with Dallas that really doesn't really sell me, and the fact that how real they're going to be, because what I've seen the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's like, okay, well, when you're a really good team, you want to be trending where you're getting into playoff mode. I mean, this week is a playoff game. I mean, you're playing for the NFC East, Philadelphia and Dallas. I mean, you win. The Eagles lose, Dallas wins. They got. They win the NFC East, they get a bye from going into the playoffs, right? So I think it's up to both of these teams to see what they're made of. But I think Dallas, as much as I've seen them over the last years, I'm not really all in. I think.
Why aren't you all in? Is it Dak Prescott? Because a lot of people.
No, I mean I don't think. I think a lot of people. I think they give Dak Prescott and I understand they criticize him, and he hasn't been as good as you'd want him to be. I mean, he's thrown been erroneous with a lot of some of his passes, and
so was Tony Romo. So was Tony Romo.
Yeah, but so I mean, and the problem is you got to go way back, back in the 90s, whenever the Cowboys won the last great quarterback, and that's Troy Aikman. Mm-hmm. So it's all about you're miserable as what you do in the postseason play, right? And I think this now is like you're getting into that playoff mode where you can't make those type of mistakes.
Right.
And if you have a defense, and the defense has been a little vulnerable lately against the rush and against the run. And so I think that you really have to play very complementary football. And I don't know. I think to me, I think it's anyone's playoffs. I think if you go and run, I think if you look at the 49ers, certainly the Eagles, Jalen Hurts comes back. I mean, how good are they going to be? But I think Dallas and even the Giants, I mean, these teams win, they get hot, they have a chance to do some things. But when you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, you mentioned it. Jalen Hurts, you cannot make those type of throws because you play good teams. They're going to cash in on points, and you just can't make those type of plays in a really tight game. And against you look at against the Texans, certainly against Tennessee, hasn't been the best outcome. I mean, they won the games. Dak's been able to come back and overcome some of his mistakes, but both sides got to play. They have to play, and I think that's the problem with Dallas. It seems like they haven't been on the being able to compliment each other. There hasn't been a consistency, and I think that's to me, you need to see that, especially to be able to make a run in the play.
Go ahead, Speedy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you were saying more. So my last question is basically in the NFC playoffs. So which team are you most afraid of in the NFC matchup wise for the Cowboys?
I really don't I think Philly with Jalen Hurts is definitely a tremendous test, but you still got to get Lane Johnson back. You got to get some of their main players back. I think it'd be Philadelphia if you tuck the NFC. But the Giants are playing well.
The Giants are playing well. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been throwing Daniel Jones under the bus. Daniel Jones had a superior year, and everybody says, well, what do you mean by superior? He's one of only 3 quarterbacks this year that have thrown over 3,200 yards and ran 600 yards. So,
I mean, I like Danny Don. I think that he's done a tremendous job when you got a new coach. They can run the football. They got their defense is playing well. And I think that's another thing going these playoffs. And that's something I mentioned the Cowboys is that as much as great a player as Micah Parsons is, I mean, they've been prone to give up some big plays. And I think it's, defensively, you have to really be really good. You have to be consistent. And I just think when you have the Giants, you have the Cowboys, and they kind of play that gritty football, the Giants, it comes down to who's going to be the most consistent. So, I mean, I love the way the NFC is. It reminds me, back when it was all 4 teams were just battling each other. It was a dogfight. I mean, let's get it on. And it has a lot of resembles a lot of that in the past.
Are you surprised when you look at the 49ers and even the Green Bay Packers, if they could sneak in? And right now, if they add an 8th seed, the Green Bay Packers make the playoffs. When you look at the quarterback play of Aaron Rodgers, and he's not going to play a home game this year. So he's not going to have to play in the snow. He's not going to have to play in the cold. If you look at all these NFC teams, they're mostly dome teams or hot weather teams. Do you think that this could benefit Aaron Rodgers moving into the playoffs?
Well, I mean, anytime Aaron Rodgers gets hot, I mean, look out. And I think you look at these teams that get on these runs and, teams that have won 7 straight games and, you look at the 49ers and I think that it really doesn't matter at times. I think sometimes it's whatever element you're used to playing. But I think if you're good, you're good. And I think when you have someone like Aaron Rodgers, it's this guy that feeds off adversity. People like saying, okay, well, we counted you out, but just let me get in the playoffs. Let me get on a run. Let me win one game, and then let's go to the other one. And then next thing you know, look back and, they're in the NFC Championship game. So I just think anytime you have a player like that is so polarizing, is so good, that really has been there and done that, then that's a difficult task. And you can't ever count those guys out. In the 49ers, to me, with Brock Purdy, I mean, that kid, I watched him at Iowa State, and he looks like just a carbon copy of what he did was in college. And their defense, man, is just amazing. I mean, they just beat you up. I mean, they got tremendous players on that team. And I really think, I mean, it's not sexy, but we know going to playoffs, you got a great defense, man. You can live and die by them.
Before we let you go, Tony, who do you have going to the Super Bowl this year? If you look at all the teams that you mentioned, the 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, the Cowboys, and obviously the AFC, you have Buffalo, Kansas City, the Bengals. I mean, you have 3 really dominant teams on the both divisions are very top heavy, but I think the AFC has more talent. Who do you think is going to the Super Bowl this year?
Man, I tell you what, that's a great question. I mean, I love Kansas City. I love Buffalo. I think it's a great story. DeMar Hamlin will have this, added incentive, and those guys to go play out for the guy. Man, I'll tell you what, I like Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati, that's a team, again, they've won 7 straight, I think, 6 or 7 straight games. Mm-hmm. Joe Burrow, I mean, they're good. But I really like Cincinnati, and honestly, I like the 49ers. And if you ask me who my 1A team is, I like the Eagles. But that's my opinion. But certainly, I think, what I've seen, and I think it's all based on what you see in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And really, there's a lot of merit that go with that, because it's all about where are you healthy? I mean, how are you guys playing? I mean, the health, you look at all these teams, it's only like one player away, and then it can change the whole outcome.
We've seen 6 seeds actually go right to the Super Bowl and win. In 2010, Aaron Rodgers did it. The Giants did it as a 6 seed, as a wild card team. So we have seen wild card teams win and go all the way to the Super Bowl and win it. So
absolutely, brother.
So we could see it. But Tony, thank you for your time. As always, we'll get you on a lot quicker than we did from last year, but you're great. Keep up the good work, all the stuff that you do, all the events that you go to, and you have a beautiful family. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Well, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. And again, Happy New Year, brothers.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. We were just talking to Falcons, Cowboys, Jets defensive tackle Tony Casillas. When we come back, we will be talking to I would say a politician of some sort. We will be talking to former Browns, Lions, and Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden, our friend, when we come back here on the Sports Loudmouths.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hey, does this need to be turned?
This is the Sports Loudmouths.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Sports Loudmouths. 631-672-3108 is the number. You can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows live throughout the week. The Sports Loudmouths, obviously mine and Speedy's show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Shout out to Tony Casillas. He was fantastic, as always. And we have another return guest. It's been like a football player week.
Yes.
I guess you could call that, because yesterday we had Brandon Jacobs on and his son, Braden Jacobs, and we had
Chris Draft,
ex-NFL player, 12-year veteran, and then today we had Tony Casillas, and now we have our second guest. We are now talking to former Browns, Lions, Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden. Leigh, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
We're good, man, and I know you've been very, very busy over the past year, obviously fighting for an office in politics. It's great when you see an NFL player, an ex-NFL player. Herschel Walker was doing it, and now you're doing it. So I love that you're trying to help, the politic world and help different states, move forward, with all the different things that are going on in the world. So before we get into that, how are you and your family with the COVID-19 situation?
We all good. It's just me. So I'm good, man. COVID, it's a virus. So, I live kind of differently. So the virus won't affect me.
Well, I like the sneaker collection in the back.
I appreciate it, man.
I'm a sneaker collector too, man. But I don't have any of those fancy boxes. But
that's just a little display I had made a long time ago, man. When I was with the Browns, this was like 2006 when I did this. 2007 somewhere.
Leigh's coming for our friend Antoine Harris that has a sneakerhead company.
I've been trying to, reach out to Antoine. So he's every time he comes on the show, he's like, oh, I have a bunch of sneakers that you'd be interested in. And I keep forgetting to reach out to him. But we're not talking about Antoine. We're talking about Leigh.
Yeah, I don't buy no shoes no more, though. Anyway, I got enough.
Yeah.
You got a nice display, though.
You do.
Appreciate it, man.
So I wanted to ask you just the whole experience with the election process. You were running for a county executive county executive in Maryland, Prince George. So what were some of like the processes that you didn't expect to happen going through all that? And then how was that whole process doing it for about a year?
Yeah, what I didn't expect to happen was like, kind of some illegal things. People taking down my signs. You know what I'm saying? It was a little wild. I was trying to run commercials, ads on television, ads on
radio,
smart devices. Like they kind of, they just kind of slowed my process up.
Right.
Kind of not emailing me back, in the amount of time that I should get an email. So it was just a lot of just crazy things that you wouldn't think would happen. But, those television shows and movies, it's all kind of real, man. They kind of do some crazy things in politics.
Oh, yeah. I believe it. They'll do anything to put your name in the dirt.
Yeah, and for them to obviously win. I mean, it's a game, to be honest. It's just like football, right? They trying to win, and they going to do whatever it takes to win. I mean, look at the Patriots when they got caught cheating. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Like, people just try to win. Any advantage that they can have, they take it, man. And so...
And Josh McDaniel believes the Patriots got caught cheating in Denver.
Hold on, Leigh. The Patriots claim they weren't cheating. So, and that's why nobody actually got a chance to see those videos, because Roger Goodell just decided to torch those videos before
Correct.
they could see.
And that happens in politics as well. You know, like the powers that be, the higher ups, they'll do whatever it takes to cover things up, to, again, the opposition, get rid of them, try to beat them at any cost. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes. It's like cutthroat, because it's like at the end of the day, you dealing with a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of decisions, right? And they don't want to relinquish that. You know what I'm saying?
We are talking to former Browns, Lions, Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden. Leigh, the last time when we had you on the show, we spoke about the butt fumble. You were there. You actually had an interception in that game. You played a big part of that win when the Patriots won and beat the Jets. But we look at the Patriots this year, and the Patriots have not looked good. Mac Jones, who had a very good rookie season, really has not looked good this year. He actually almost lost his starting job to a backup quarterback, a 6th round, or even an undrafted quarterback. So are you surprised that Bill Belichick couldn't get this team moving in the right direction? And they're one win away from making the playoffs, even with the season that they had. Are you surprised that they have a chance to still make the playoffs?
No, I'm not surprised. Obviously, Bill is a great coach. So no matter what it looks like on the outside, he has things under control and he knows what he's doing. He feel like he's doing what's best for the team. And I mean, but we all see, like, not having an offensive coordinator, how that affects the quarterback and affect just the game, pretty much. So sometimes, mad geniuses fuck up, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you just gotta kind of regroup. But let's just say he messed up, but look what position he's still in, kind of trying to figure things out. He just didn't hire anybody on the outside, anybody, of any offensive mind. So he just, it's like MacGyver. He putting shit together, you know what I mean? So
it is pretty crazy.
Right. So it's crazy, but I think that's what they got to do, is like tackle that, obviously. And Bill knows it, I'm sure. If he want to win, he going to have to get an old coordinator, a good offensive coordinator like he had. Bill O'Brien. Yeah, I mean, he's still out there, you know what I mean? But we've seen what the Patriots can do with a good offensive coordinator and a good offensive line coach. That's vital as well.
So you also played a year in Detroit as well, and they're again, it's going to be hard for them to make the playoffs, but still got a shot at that 1-16.
Well, if they beat the Green Bay Packers, they're in. Even if they lose,
no, Seattle has to lose too.
Yeah, but if let's say Seattle, who's Seattle playing this week?
The Rams.
The Rams. And honestly, I don't know if the Seattle Seahawks are going to beat the Rams.
You don't think so?
No, I don't know. You with football, you just don't know.
I mean, yes, you definitely don't know.
No, so
Seattle's
a better team. I mean, obviously, but I don't know if there's a guarantee. Are they playing in Seattle?
No, they're at LA.
Yeah, so
there's a chance. But my question is pertaining to the Lions. We're waiting for this stretch of, can they put consistent playoff team, culture change together? Is this the guy, Dan Campbell? Is this the team you think that could maybe turn the tide for a team like Detroit?
Well, it's looking like it. I played with Dan Campbell that year, and I mean, he is who he is. What he's showing on television, that's who he is. That's what type of player he is. And you got to love that. You got to love somebody giving everything they got. And you'll be right beside him or behind him or wherever he needs you to be. And so I think it is. I mean, this is, I believe, his second year.
Yes.
And look where they are. We're talking about playoffs with them in his second year. So it's just continuing to climb the ladder like he knows he has to do and get better in defense, right? I mean, the defense hasn't been that great. And so it's just always things to improve. And Dan Campbell is a guy that's going to look to improve every single minute. That's how he was as a player.
We are talking to former Browns, Lions, and Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden. There's a couple of really, really good corners that came out of the draft this year. One on the New York Jets, Sauce Gardner, who's been a beast. And then Woolen, who he really came out of nowhere. He was a 5th or 6th round draft pick by Seattle. Seattle over the years have found these guys in the later rounds, and they've developed into pretty good players. What are your thoughts with some of these new and improved type of corners that you've seen get drafted in the last few years?
Man, I love to see it. I mean, obviously that's the position I play. So watching those guys do what they do what I used to do, because I can't do it no more. It's always just great to look at those guys. I mean, I don't watch football that much, but when I do, I always try to focus on, the corner play and how those guys are playing, because again, that was my position. But I love just the style they have and just the confidence that, they have. I mean, we had guys that had the confidence. You got to have confidence playing corner. But, I just love where they've come. I mean, Sauce is like, 6'3". He's not even a big guy, but slender, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? He just stays with the receivers and makes plays and agile. So I just love these new age corners. I love seeing people just live out their dreams, man, like I did.
So a lot of it made of these, the league wanting to be more predicated on offense. We've seen a lot of these rule changes that have really hurt these corners.
It's been that way.
Yeah. Do you think it's too much, even the extremes that they've done?
Listen, back when I was playing, every single year we had rules like changes, and they used to always come every year talking about rule changes. And when I was listening to that every year, I was like, what is it going to become in 10, 20 years? You know what I mean? And it's become even more predicated towards offense. And it's difficult for a cornerback to play. A defensive guy to hit somebody, you're going to get fined. You're going to get a penalty. It's going to hurt your team. It's too much. But obviously they're still doing what they're doing as the rules change. But I think they just got to stop it here, at this point.
When you look at the NFL this year, and I before we get into the DeMar Hamlin thing, because I want to know your opinion on what you saw on Sunday night, you look at the game, and now the NFL, because of the DeMar Hamlin thing, they might be adding an 8 seed to make the playoffs, and maybe it brings in more revenue this year, and maybe the NFL, if it works out, hey, you know what? We're going to bring in an 8th wild card team. Why not? Because there's a lot of money involved with it. You're talking about an extra $10, $15 million with endorsements and the enterprise that it is as an organization.
Commercial.
But yeah, absolutely. So when you look at these teams, the Bills, obviously the Bengals, the Jaguars that had a very good season, the Chiefs, the Chargers, are you surprised that the game has transitioned the way it has with the offensive style of the ball and in some of the defensive talent that we've seen come up over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, just like you said, it's a business at the end of the day. These guys are running a business. So they gotta, make money. It ain't really that's the bottom line when you really think about it. The bottom line is the checks, is the money. So shit, what you ask me? What was it again?
When you look at the DeMar Hamlin thing, do you like that the NFL is trying to change bring in an extra eighth, an eighth seed?
Right. So look at it. I mean, if you really care about players, I mean, keep playing more games isn't going to benefit the guys from getting hurt. It's going to just increase another injury. And in the playoffs, guess what? Guys don't get paid the same amount of money. You ain't getting paid your salary. So now the owners are making way more money, revenue for the playoffs because they don't got to pay the players
I didn't even know
the same amount of money.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But I mean, when you see what happened to the kid, I mean, it was just a routine tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's nothing you can take away from the game, for that to not happen. You know what I'm saying? So, but the safety of the players, obviously adding extra games ain't going to be beneficial.
Well,
but for the playoffs, it's cool, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
How do they figure out who gets what in the playoffs if you're not getting the same salary? So how do they figure that out? Your best player, Tom Brady, what does he make more money because he's Tom Brady? How does it work?
The playoffs is the playoffs. You getting everybody getting the same amount. It's just like preseason. Tom Brady ain't getting the big check.
Mm-hmm.
The big check only comes during the regular season, like them 17 weeks now 18 weeks.
How much do you make? Playing in the playoff game. How much does every season?
To be honest, I don't even remember, man. I ain't there. The money don't really matter. You know what I'm saying? I ain't really care too much. I just knew it wasn't the same amount that I got.
Right, of course,
during the season.
Right.
But I don't remember. And obviously that was a long time ago. So the pay scale bumps up. So I don't know, bro.
Yeah, plus it's gonna be added up from what they make with the stadium revenue and all that stuff. So
but
2 playoff games, yeah.
But I don't know how they calculate it and how they say how much a player gets. I really don't know.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there is a raw percentage of that. I think it's just based on the team revenue, like you said, with each team that makes the playoffs gets a certain amount to be able to boost it overall. So, so my question is about the situation with DeMar Hamlin, and we know a lot of the NFL's been criticized a lot in the past for a lot of the way that they've handled former players and also handled on-field injuries and concussions and all that. So, what do you think are some of the advancements that you think the NFL needs to make when it comes to maybe guaranteed money or the way they manage injuries?
Man, they need to manage injuries way better, and everybody sees it. And it's not just concussions; it's more. It's all the injuries, and then and this is just one incident again that you see, or even big incidents. There are smaller incidents that you may not even know that occur, and like I don't know how they fix it. Obviously, you just got to take care, like you just talked about. You just got to guarantee the money, pay them. I mean, do something. Something has to change because an injury, like you're done.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about, I had an injury, right, in 2004. I was on my rookie deal. I got hurt. Half of my salary was gone.
Wow.
What job do you know that you get hurt on and then you get half your money?
Right. Not many.
You getting, right, workers' comp, something gonna happen, right? They're not taking less out of your check, but that happened to me. But shit, what did you say again? My bad.
I was asking, what do you think is the best way for the NFL to try to improve the way they manage injuries, both in game and also like benefits with former players later?
So yeah, I guess that's what I meant. It's like things like that. Like, don't when you getting injured, they just try to again push you to the side somehow, some way, or give you less money. Right? Just think about guys coming back from injury. Sometimes they be like, well, is he going to be the same player? We can't give him, all this money now. So that's why guys fight to get more money. And so the money has to be distributed differently, and that lies with the NFL, the NFLPA, our Players Association got to be the one to fight for more money for us and fight for getting disabilities and, things even after football, right? Because, who knows if Hamlin going to be able to play again? Who knows? And it's way more, way more, right? Mentally, people are messed up. Physically, they're messed up. And the NFL just got to do a better job of compensating guys any way that they can, any and every way that they can.
We are talking to former Browns, Lions, Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden. And by the way, I don't know if DeMar Hamlin's ever going to play again. Remember, he stopped breathing for 5 or 6 minutes. So you're talking about no oxygen going to his brain. It could have affected certain body parts, limbs. You don't know if he's ever going to be 100% again. He is 24, so he could recuperate a lot faster than maybe some of these older players, but something of that magnitude, he might never be the same again. And I don't know if he'll ever want to play again after experiencing something like that. That's scary. 1 out of 250 million chance that could happen, and it happened to him. So, and we've never seen anything like that. But we look at the game now, and Leigh, you look at right now the AFC and NFC. Are you surprised that the AFC is just more dominant than the NFC this year? Over the last couple of years, it really has been dominant NFC and weak AFC. But this year, it's really surprisingly the best division in the NFC has been the NFC East. Maybe because of the competition, maybe because of the NFC North isn't that good, the NFC South isn't that good, and the NFC West isn't that good. Are you surprised that the NFC has really taken a step back?
Before I answer that, you said something previously, and I just wanted to say, just matching with what I said and why I brought it up too was because Hamlin, I believe he's on his rookie deal. He was a 6th-round pick. He probably has the same contract I had, and so he probably gets a split if you get hurt. But now, the season is pretty much over. So, but just think about if it happened like in the middle of the season. He's on his contract. It said if you get hurt, you are getting half your money, which is crazy. You get what I'm saying? So compensate them. And now you said the NFC East, right? Am I surprised that the NFC East is what?
The NFC is the NFC East is really been dominant from the NFC. The NFC has been dominant by the NFC East. And
okay, I got you.
I'm very surprised because the NFC East, obviously the schedule was really, really easy. But the NFC North, where everybody thought the Packers were going to be a dominant team this year, even though Aaron Rodgers didn't have any weapons and he didn't have Devontae Adams. The Vikings, everybody thought was going to be good. The Detroit Lions was moving up. The Buccaneers, everybody thought was going to have a better year than they're having right now. And then the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Rams, everybody thought the Rams were going to the Super Bowl again going into the year. So are you surprised the NFC is as weak as it has been this year?
Just every year, like a division is going to have usually 3 teams that are really, in it like that. And you just never know what year it's going to be. Like you said, the scheduling, they might have just a favorable schedule that year, the NFC East, or again, just teams aren't gelling like the Rams, like you talked about, the way that they gelled last year. So, football is just it's like revolving. A lot of the same teams stay up top, but you just never know year to year what can happen. Obviously, the Patriots was a dynasty, but it was always somebody that was rivaling them or somebody on the other side, a different opponent. We're waiting for them. So, it's just, I feel like the NFC East, they got
the Eagles
pretty good quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? And then, for Dallas, that guy stepped in and played well when Dak was hurt. I know Washington kind of been up and down with their offense, but Heineke was playing pretty damn good to keep them, in the hunt. But obviously the AFC though, you got the juggernauts, the Cincinnati's, the Kansas City's, and the Bills, right?
Yeah. So my question is, was a debate of the players and we were having about a couple months ago was the grass versus the turf debate. A lot of players wanting to advocate to have the natural grass field. So did you have a preference when you were playing in the different fields?
Absolutely, grass all day long. The turf is cool, but it's nothing like that natural grass, that natural plant. Not saying people haven't, had injuries like ACLs or whatever on the grass, but it's a little bit more give. The ground is because it's just a natural surface. So, and it's just probably keeping that up. Like stadiums and teams are gonna have to keep it up because like Pittsburgh had one of the worst damn grass fields because Pitt was playing at it, high schools was playing at it, everybody was playing at it. So it was just eating that grass up. So, the maintenance has to be where it needs to be. That's why they went to, field turf because it was just a little better than AstroTurf. And, it's just a blend between the two. But preferably, I liked natural grass.
We are talking to former Browns, Lions, and Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden. Before we let you go, Leigh, who do you got going to the Super Bowl? Who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
Man, just right off my head right now, I would say Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Andy Reid against his former team.
Yeah, that'd be a crazy storyline. But again, it's hard. Josh Allen, to go against him, but he's had some kind of hiccups this year. I don't know if they get over the hump this year. I think Kansas City might, because those are two quarterbacks that, man, when a game is in their hands, and if it's in their hands, they're going to do whatever it takes to win. And so that's why I would take them, because obviously, not every playoff game, but a lot of times they close games. And right, when you have those quarterbacks that you can't really game plan for, right, they're going to pull something out of their hat. Those are the two quarterbacks that I feel like can do it the most.
I just want to mention too, before congratulations as well to your teammate, your former teammate Joe Thomas, who's one of the finalists for the Hall of Fame as well. And I definitely think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. His rookie year was 2007, I believe. That was my last year there in Cleveland. Yep. Yeah, he was a hell of a player, man. A hell of a person too.
He's in great shape.
To be honest, he's a real good dude, man. But shit, yeah, great player too.
He's in great shape too, by the way. He is in phenomenal shape for a guy that was playing at 305, 310 pounds. Is like now he's walking at 180 pounds. He's got an 8-pack. This guy is built like an ox, man. He really is.
Yeah. So different lineman Logan Mankins.
Yeah.
He was big, right? Somebody showed me a college video of him like dunking something crazy. So think about it. They were probably just tall, bigger athletes that, because I feel like offensive linemen are like the offensive cornerbacks, kind of. Think because they're going backwards, right? They got to kind of, defend, right? The quarterback, right? So nobody gets to the quarterback. So they got to defend and do it backwards. So they got to be pretty good athletes. And Joe Thomas was a pretty good athlete.
That's why all these offensive linemen are like from like the sticks,
right?
Oregon, Arkansas, they're wrestlers. I've heard so many stories. Now they have the Hawaiian guys now.
Right. And they just start eating a lot,
Yes.
but they still athletic.
Honestly, a whole offensive line should be built from sumo wrestlers. That's what they should. Because what do sumo wrestlers do? They push, right?
Right.
Right. So just all five players, including the center, should be sumo wrestlers. You'll never be able to get to the quarterback. You'll never be able to get to the quarterback. No lie.
They got to be good going backwards, though. So you got to still be a special type of person, man.
Look at those guys.
Special type of athlete. Just because you big and agile, you can go forward. Some people can't be big and agile or just agile and going backwards. You know
Maybe,
what I mean?
maybe in Errol's parallel sumo wrestler football universe, you'd be blitzing more often than covering, and then the defensive lineman would drop back.
But here, Leigh Bodden, Lee, how tall are you? 5'10"? 6
Nah,
foot?
6'1".
6'1". Okay, you're 6'1" and about, let's say, 205 pounds, right?
I used to play at 195.
195. Okay,
Yeah.
and you have a sumo wrestler, and they're all five sumo wrestlers that are about almost 400 pounds. Very athletic. You've seen those sumo wrestlers, and they'll push forward. How the hell are you getting to the quarterback?
Because you got moves, bro. You got moves. You got spin moves. You got, rip throughs, all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get past those guys. It ain't like, they're going to go 100% just blocking you. You know what I'm saying? Because, listen, their advantage is that. My advantage is going to be, right, the quickness, right, the lateral quickness. And the speed and the hands and the juke, you know what I mean? So you're going to find somebody that's going to be able to rival them. You know what I mean? So that's just the nature of life, man.
It's the nature of athletic sports and
the
way sports has changed. And you look at football, you look at hockey, baseball, even basketball. These kids are more athletic when they come out of high school now and college than they were. But I thought, and I'll go back to it, the 90s, with the 90s game when it comes to basketball and hockey, it was so much better than it is today. Not because of the speed that the game is played, but really the talent that you saw in those times, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Mario Lemieux, the Brett Hulls and all that. And even in the 90s with the quarterbacks. I mean, Tom Brady came in the end of the 90s. And we're talking,
Manning,
you talk about some of the great 90s quarterbacks, the Joe Montanas, the Steve Youngs, the Dan Marino, the John Elways. I mean, you're talking about elite quarterbacks, some of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen to play the game. So, and Tom Brady, obviously, which everybody says is the greatest to ever play the game. So
Brett Favre before he started stealing money.
and we got
getting pictures of his what.
Yeah.
Good old Brett,
But you got great quarterbacks. You got Drew Breeses. You got the again, like you said, Peyton Manning's. Aaron Rodgers is still playing. You still have those greats that played as well during the 2000s.
They were good quarterbacks, no question.
But I mean, you don't think these are legends that I just named, right?
Yeah,
Drew Brees,
they're
Aaron Rodgers.
But just imagine Steve Young, Joe Montana, playing in the rules of these days. Could you imagine?
No, absolutely. I understand
John
that.
Elway playing in the way the quarterbacks could do whatever they want. I mean, in those days, in the 90s, the corners can hang on you.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Back in the day. Yeah, and it's a little free now. And then back shoulder fade and all that, that won't ride when when they can allow, or not can, but when they allow defensive backs to put their hands on them and be physical, kind of throughout the route and all of that. So, those quarterbacks would, like you said, I'm sure that their numbers will be astronomical, if not, better than the ones that are playing today.
Leigh, we really appreciate you as always. We'll get you on again. You're fantastic. Keep up the good work. But listen, stay away from the politicians, man. I mean,
hey, man, listen, that's what run the world, bro. That's what makes you do what you do.
I know.
So I want to be able to change the world a little bit, man.
Right.
The world is messed up. I'm trying to change the world.
Go work for a new president, whoever that is, hopefully it's not Biden, but
Well, shit. I mean, and it's a possibility, but politics is that's what runs the world, man. And who doesn't want to run the world? Who doesn't want to have a say-so in the world? You know what I'm saying? So
just remember the idea for the hashtag that I gave you last time you were on the show was
what was it again?
Hashtags leadership, but the way you spell your name.
Oh yeah. I might have to use that next time.
Yep.
Just
remember, you could definitely push that leadership.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Lee, keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, man. Appreciate y'all.
We were just talking to ex-Brown, Lions, and Patriots cornerback Leigh Bodden. Fantastic guy, as always. This was the second time he's been on the show, and he's got a good personality. It's a shame, but I know he wants to rule the world, but why? Why would you want to go into politics? I mean, it's crazy right now what the world is turning into and transitioning into, and with everything that's going on overseas right now, and Russia and everything over there. So why would you want to get into the politics where you put yourself at risk? You heard what he said. People are vicious.
No, they definitely are. There's no question.
They're ripping on his signs, making him look bad on national TV and radio. I mean, I listen. You're making a commercial, and then somebody puts out a commercial about you, and then is saying false things about you, making things up.
Oh yeah,
they don't even know who you are.
No,
I mean, I would be pissed off if I'm sitting there watching something on national TV, and then all of a sudden a commercial comes up about me, and these people don't even know who I am, and they're lies. So how would you like it if you're sitting there and you're hanging out with your kids or hanging out with your family, and then some stupid fucking politician thing comes up and pisses you off?
Well, yeah, a lot of it with commercials now are just to drag down the other candidate more than actually promote yourself. And
it would piss me off.
It's kind of annoying the way they do it now, but hopefully he does well with. He's running in Prince George's County in Maryland, so wishing him all the best with the success in his campaign, and hopefully
he's running again.
But we'll see. He was doing county executive last year, and we'll see how he ends up doing down the road. But he was again. If he wants to spread a message, change the world, we'll wish him all the best in doing that.
Hey, listen, if he thinks politics are the way he wants to go, I'm not going to fight him. But I think it's, to me, a former NFL player. To me, it's the devil getting into politics. It puts you in a position where, I find it to be, uncomfortable doing stuff like that. So I don't know. Can I buy a commercial on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network? He's a piece of work, man. He really is. So why don't we get back into it? The Dolphins GM, the Dolphins ownership said that if GM Chris Grier and Mike McDaniels could be on the hot seat if they lose against the Jets on Sunday. Now, I will say this. The Dolphins, I don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be. It doesn't look like it's going to be Tua. They brought in Mike Glennon off of waivers. Yep. I don't know if he's starting in the game. Probably is. If they're starting Mike Glennon, they're in a lot of trouble. Even with the Jets, Mike White or even Zach Wilson, those two quarterbacks are better than Mike Glennon. So they're putting themselves in a position to fail. We were talking about the Miami Dolphins being possibly the number one seed in the AFC East.
About a month and a half ago, I thought they could win the division.
A couple of weeks ago, they were looked at as one of the more dominant offenses in the NFL, and now all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill hasn't been 100% healthy. Jalen Waddle hasn't seen the ball enough, and you're seeing the difference of what this team is. And they don't. A team that likes to run the ball, last 2 weeks haven't run the ball enough. So I think it's a huge problem. And the Dolphins, they added to the defense at the trade deadline. They traded to the Broncos. Bradley Chubb, and Bradley Chubb has played well, but he hasn't played for what they gave up for him. So I mean, when you sit at the table right now and you're wondering if Miami loses out and they don't make the playoffs, are they willing to fire a coach that is in his rookie season? I like Mike McDaniels. I think he's a good coach. He's a good young coach. It worries me when a team like the Miami Dolphins over the last 2 years could fire two coaches. And then to go into the offseason where they're going to be looking for another one. And I know everybody says, well, they could be looking at Jim Harbaugh. They could look at, maybe one of these other coaches get fired, one of the top elite coaches, maybe a Sean Payton of some kind.
Who they tried to tamper for already.
So I don't know where the Dolphins are going to go in the offseason. I think they should give Mike McDaniels at least another year.
Yeah, for sure.
And if Tua is not going to be 100% healthy, they find a good backup this year going into the offseason. Or maybe they go after Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, he trains out in Miami. Maybe Baltimore and Miami make a trade. And
that'd be interesting.
Trade Tua and maybe somebody else to Baltimore for Lamar Jackson. Lamar doesn't want to be in Baltimore. It doesn't seem like. He's not signing the extension. He's probably getting franchised this offseason. So Sean Payton is a guy that I like. I think he's going to have his pick of the litter. I think he wants to go to LA. And I think if the Chargers become available or the Rams become available, it seems like McVay will be there next year. Now, if the Chargers get eliminated in the first round, they could fire their coach. So I'm interested to see, being that Sean Payton is available this offseason, where he could go, or maybe he decides to sit again. He likes doing the press. He likes obviously doing the broadcasts, and he doesn't have to leave, the value of his home when he's sitting there on a desk. So I do believe Sean Payton will coach again, just as much as I believe Jim Harbaugh will coach in the NFL. I wonder if it's going to be this year or next year.
Yeah, I think starting with Mike McDaniel, it would be an utter mistake if they fired him, because I think he's done a lot of good things with his offense this year. And I think a lot of the games they've lost have not been his fault. I think a lot of the Tua situation is why they're looking at it, but I think the front office really deserves more blame than he does when it comes to that. They really mismanaged it in so many ways, just handling the injury issues and covering up the concussion protocol. Now, again, they got investigated and it turned out to be not as illegal as we were expecting, but still, the way they handled it, I think, is more in the front office and with Grier, and also with the ownership too. Stephen Ross and that whole celebrity ownership, really, it's a bad look. And sometimes you let your egos get in the way sometimes too. And that's, I think, the thing that's holding back the Dolphins really growing into that team, because they have a lot of talent now. And I think they have a coach that's really good for the modern era of football. They haven't had that for a while. I thought.
And Sean Payton is, the Saints still own the rights to Sean Payton. Yes, they do, Keith. And again, going in this offseason, teams are probably going to have to give up at least a second round and maybe a fifth round draft pick to get Sean Payton. There are teams out there that will do absolutely that to get Sean Payton. Sean Payton can change the outlook to your team and your organization. I think Sean Payton is going to go to a team where he could be semi-GM, aka coach. That's where I think he is going to go. Now, Arizona could be a very interesting spot. They have Kyler Murray over there. Arizona could be firing their GM in the offseason. Kingsbury could be gone. It seems like him and Kyler Murray are not getting along behind closed doors. If you're watching Hard Knocks, it doesn't seem like they are. And that's why Kyler Murray tore his ACL. So somewhere like Arizona would be a good place for a guy like Sean Payton. One, they got the draft stock. Two, they have a good young team, and they still have a good young quarterback that we've seen Sean Payton coach, small quarterbacks, aka Drew Brees, that are, become elite quarterbacks in the NFL, from history. So I think that it's a very interesting thing going into the offseason when you see a guy like Jim Harbaugh's name getting waved out there, or Sean Payton's name get waved out there. And there's quite a few other coaches that could be available this offseason, not in college, but even in the NFL that we haven't. Caldwell hasn't been hired. Maybe Jim Caldwell could be. I don't know why he ever got fired from Detroit. He had a winning record, but maybe they bring back Jim Caldwell. Maybe he gets a coaching job. Josh McDaniels could be fired in the offseason in his first year. I don't know why he's keeping his job. So there's a lot of what ifs, and I think there'll be at least 4 or 5 jobs that are going to be available this offseason, where some of these coaches that we just mentioned could go to those organizations.
Yeah, it just seems like for Miami, though, they've been stuck in wanting to be they want to be this flashy team all the time when they're finally actually building something modern. And I just don't think it was the right time. I know Jim Harbaugh, he might go bounce back and do well in the NFL. I'll give him the chance to do that. Sean Payton was never bad. He was always a great offensive mind. But again, the Dolphins have something sustainable finally, and I don't know why they would try to back out on it just for the flash. I'm not saying Mike McDaniel's a better coach than Sean Payton, or maybe if Jim Harbaugh comes back to that form, but you have something sustainable that you saw a franchise quarterback in Tua when he is on the field really grow. It just would make no sense for them to do it right now. And I think they finally have some kind of stability to be like, I guess you could say, trusted as a franchise, which they haven't had in the past too. I said the same thing about the Browns last year too. The Browns have all this talent that their ownership, ego, all that stuff gets in the way. There was still kind of drama, and the Dolphins, I think, are in that same boat where they haven't been able to take that leap because of that yet. And I think it would be a grave mistake if they fire McDaniel. I'm not crazy about Chris Grier, but I think the Chubb trade was good, and I think some of the offseason moves they made in the past have been good with their later round picks. I just don't think he's drafted well in the first round. I think that's the only thing that's held him back.
Oh, and I agree with you. And I think when you look at the big picture, and there are 2 really big names out there, we just named Peyton and Harbaugh. They could be, and who knows, maybe Baltimore decides to part ways with their Jim Harbaugh's brother, and he could be on his way out. So there's a lot of positions that could be open this offseason. And we heard San Francisco's defensive coordinator could be one of the lead guys to what's his name again? I'm sorry, he'll play for the Patriots. The defensive coordinator for the San Francisco
DeMeco
49ers.
Ryans.
DeMeco Ryans could be the hottest player.
Yeah.
I mean, hottest coach available going into the offseason. It's not Jim Harbaugh. It's not Sean Payton. It's DeMeco Ryans because of what he's done with the San Francisco 49ers defense. So, so it'll be an interesting offseason. And whenever one of these positions open up, it'll be interesting because we already know Arizona positions, it's going to be open.
Yeah.
The Saints position could be open too. Atlanta's position could be open as well.
Right.
I mean, there could be quite a few coaches. I'll tell you this: the Texans are definitely going to be looking for a new coach this offseason.
Yeah.
So hiring, what's his name again? Lovie Smith.
Yeah.
He was only for a 1 or 2 year situation.
Right.
I do
feel
believe,
bad for him. Yeah.
I think they're going to move on from Lovie Smith. So there's going to be positions opened this offseason in the NFL, and it's going to be very interesting because when I hear that the Jets could part ways with Robert Saleh because he's not getting along with Woody Johnson, I just don't see that happening. I really don't.
But that's kind of the same thing with the Dolphins. Like, at what point do you realize if you're an owner, you can't let your ego take over?
We've seen the Dolphins do this before.
I know.
So it's not. We haven't seen the Jets do this. They hire a coach in 1 year and they fire him.
No, not like that. But we've definitely seen Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson try to have their egos on the team.
Todd Bowles got fired after 3 years.
3 years, yeah, right. But again, that's what I'm saying with a lot of these ownership. Same thing I think with the Raiders too. Like the Raiders, their interim coach that got into the playoffs last year should at least get another chance. No, they bring in Josh McDaniels. It's one thing if they brought in Sean Payton or they brought in Bieniemy or something like that. No, they tried Josh McDaniels.
There is no way. It doesn't seem like anybody's going to hire Eric Bieniemy.
No, I know that.
It's crazy. It really is crazy. Maybe he doesn't interview right, but the guy is a mastermind when it comes to offense and stability. Right. When you look at Kansas City's stability offensively, yes, they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and some of the weapons they've had over the years, but you look at who they are as an organization and what Bieniemy has done offensively with Andy Reid's offense in the last 3 or 4 years has been remarkable because we've seen the other offensive coordinators that have eventually left Kansas City and received jobs, aka Chicago and all different places. They failed as NFL coaches. And we've seen this, the trees of some of these coaches, they fail. Bill Belichick's tree has been horrible over the years. Bill Parcells obviously was probably the best tree we've ever seen. Bill Parcells. You had Bill Belichick, you had Peyton, you had Tom Coughlin, you had all these guys. And now the new tree that everybody keeps talking about is the Kyle Shanahan tree because you have Sean McVay, McDaniels, O'Connell, all these guys, obviously Robert Saleh. They're all coming from that tree of coaches that from that particular organization. So it's interesting. It really is.
Keith also says that the play calling for Miami the past few weeks has been terrible, and I would give the Miami coaches another year. I absolutely would too. I again, it just wouldn't be surprising considering how their ownership is, especially since there's a lot of celebrities in that front office for them to be able to do that. Because somebody flashy is there, we already saw them try to tamper for Sean Payton and Tom Brady as it was. So it wouldn't be surprised if they tried again with that, if that's the approach they're going. And if that's the case, McDaniels should get a job somewhere else. I think he did a very well enough job to be able to do that. Maybe he goes to one of the teams that has another vacancy too, like in Arizona.
He'd go back to the Rams,
maybe, or
that's where he would go. He'd go to the Rams. He'll go to Kyle Shanahan, or he'll go back to one of those organizations. I don't know if he'll get a job right away, especially if he gets fired in 1 year.
Maybe not. I think he should, but maybe not. But even so, like that's gonna leave a bad look on the Dolphins, where players might not want to stay there either. I know Tyreek Hill wanted to be traded there, but again, that doesn't mean he's going to instantly say, "All right, can I trust this team to be able to build?" Because again, you look at a case of they were 8-3 this year, and then everything falling apart with the whole Tua thing. And I think that's more on the ownership and the front office stuff than it is with the coaching.
The one place that I think is definitely going to fire their coach is Arizona. I believe Kliff Kingsbury will be fired in the offseason after getting an extension going into the offseason. Him and Kyler Murray got an extension, and they just laid up a lousy goose egg this year. And I think he's lost the locker room. And that was the interesting thought on why Arizona decided to give him the extension. It didn't make any sense. When I saw that, I was like, what's going on with the organization? Are they blind? Because even though Kliff Kingsbury had a pretty good season last year, the team completely laid up a lousy goose egg in the playoffs against the Rams that eventually won the Super Bowl. But everybody blamed Kyler Murray. It wasn't Kyler Murray. It was the play calling of Kliff Kingsbury in the playoffs that made him look like a complete idiot and made really Kyler Murray look like a self-proclaimed quarterback. So I think what is Snug saying over here? I don't think Earl likes most of the stuff I sent him.
Oh, the cupcakes. I think he's talking about.
You never sent me any cupcakes.
Oh, you never sent him any cupcakes, Snug?
You
Come
never sent
on.
me any cupcakes.
Oh, I know you
sent me shirts.
A bunch of shirts. Yeah,
shirts that I don't understand, but that's something that's
yes, Snug.
does.
The one you sent me finally came to fruition. Yes, the Rams won a Super Bowl. I know.
Why he sent you a shirt?
He sent me the one because my first year there, I was making fun of the Rams that year because I didn't think they were that good. I thought they were kind of fraudulent, and they made the playoffs. That was the one he sent me. He sent one to you, and he sent one to Matty Caps that all at the same time. And that was mine. Also, David Scheinman commenting a couple of times with the Jets too. Woody Johnson has to stop hiring these rookie head coaches. Where are the Jets going if they lose? Well, they're already out.
Well, they're not. They're
playoff.
not out.
They're not
if there's an
out,
8 seed,
yeah.
If Pittsburgh loses and the Patriots lose, the Jets make it. If they beat Miami. So there's no. If this 8 seed actually goes into fruition in the next couple of days, within the next 24 hours, it could absolutely change. The outlook of the playoffs with the Jets could change. I don't want to see the Jets make the playoffs as an 8 seed. I don't. I'd rather see them go into the offseason, figure things out, and then obviously go into the draft and find their quarterback or bring in a veteran quarterback and keep Zach Wilson on the bench and let him develop. That's what I think the Jets need to do in the offseason. I think this team is good enough. I think this team could compete next year if they're 100% healthy. But the Kingsbury thing is an interesting thing. And if anybody has watched the Hard Knocks with the Arizona Cardinals, you could tell that Kingsbury has lost the locker room. As a matter of fact, he's lost some of his coaches. He's fired 2 of his coaches from his roster this year. One that he had to tell Hard Knocks to not actually post up some of the stuff that they got on video of one of the coaches that they fired after, I think in New Mexico. And then he fired another coach from his roster at the end of the season. So I think Kingsbury's on his way out. I've heard he's lost the respect from the players, and Kyler Murray and him weren't seeing eye to eye in the offense. And Kyler Murray I like Kyler Murray. I really do. I think he's a talented player. The one thing that bothers me about Kyler Murray right now is all season long, when he was talking and speaking to the press, he was talking in a third person. He thought he was bigger than the team. And when you have a player like that that's bigger than the team, why would the players want to play for him? And that has a lot to do with coaching. If Kingsbury actually stood up for, the offensive line or the wide receivers on this team, maybe Kyler Kingsbury would have a little bit more respect for the players that are around him. I just don't think Kyler Murray does. Yeah. And that's a big problem. And going into the offseason, if the players don't like him, and I'll say this about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had a bad year. It was a bad year for Russell Wilson. A lot of people say it was one of the worst trades in NFL history. I mean, when you look at the numbers that Russell Wilson put up this year, the one reason why I think that wasn't that bad of a trade is because we've seen quarterbacks go into a new position and a new place, and with the bad coach or the bad offensive line or some of the bad players around him, it didn't work. They didn't see eye to eye. I think in the offseason, if the Broncos bring in the right coach and the right offensive coordinator, I think Russell Wilson will be back to where he was with the Seattle Seahawks. He's too good of a player. This guy was an elite quarterback for like 7-8 years. You're talking about every year he was runner-up or, second runner-up for the MVP. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, he should have won the MVP. So I think Russell Wilson doesn't get enough credit when he was playing for Seattle because of the defense and how good the Legion of Boom was when the Legion of Boom was there and some of the defensive players that they had over there.
Keith has a question. Do you and Speedy still think the Bears have a better future than the Lions, when I thought they were? I thought they were going to be 1-5 and still going to be good. You both told me I was wrong, but that the Lions suck. I'm not going to let that go. Well, yeah, we'll take the L. I'll take the L on that one. I don't know about Errol, but
no, I'll take the L on that. I still think Chicago, they have a lot of draft stock. They do, and they're going to have a high draft pick this year. They're going to have to decide what to do with Justin Fields. Do they move Justin Fields in the offseason? I don't see that happening. And I also don't think they draft a quarterback. I think they add a defensive lineman if Anderson is there.
Or Jalen Carter.
Or Jalen Carter is there, wherever they're drafting at 3 or 4 or 5. they need to help out after losing Roquan Smith in a trade with the Baltimore Ravens. So, and they got nothing for Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith is one of the top 5 linebackers in the league, and I think they
got 2 and a 5.
Yeah, 2 and a 5 for one of the better linebackers in the league. And he's young. He's 25 years old.
Yeah.
So it didn't make any sense. So they practically, the Baltimore Ravens practically robbed Roquan Smith from the Chicago Bears. But the Chicago Bears, they have a significant amount of draft stock this year. And I think they can, if they do what the Jets did this past year in the draft, now obviously everything's got to fall together for them.
Yeah.
They can go into the season with a pretty good young team. But they got to decide if Justin Fields is the guy.
Yeah, and they also have to do better at drafting offensive players in general. They've had that issue throughout their franchise.
They can't find a wide receiver.
They can't find receivers or offensive linemen very well. Now, Tevin Jenkins, who they drafted in the 2nd round last year, has started to improve, but he's mostly been hurt. And beyond that, their offensive line has been really, really bad. And that's a big reason that Justin Fields has had a lot of trouble developing himself, too, because he's getting hit a lot. And since he came into the league, since he first started that week, because he didn't start at the start of the season last year, he's been hit the most of any quarterback in the league. So that's a big problem the Bears are going to have to address. They're good at developing running backs. They're all right with tight ends.
That's why I didn't understand the Jet fans when Mike White went over there to Chicago and put up all those numbers in Chicago. The Chicago Bears defense is horrible, one of the worst in the league.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the other games that Mike White played, his numbers weren't that good. Now, I know a lot of the Jet fans would rather Mike White because his throwing arm and everything like that, his release point is faster than Zach Wilson. But if you look at both Zach Wilson and Mike White, I think Zach Wilson was more successful this year in certain aspects of his game than Mike White was. So, and Zach Wilson, when he was in the red zone, played better in the red zone than Mike White did. So I know Jet fans want to believe that Mike White's the answer going into the offseason. I finally have Eric Martini obviously agreeing with me that Mike White isn't the answer, especially the game that he had last week.
Mm-hmm.
They had a chance to still make the playoffs, and they played against the Seattle Seahawks team that they're better than. They are better than the Seattle Seahawks, more talented.
I agree.
And the fact that Seattle played and beat them the way they did, yes, it was in Seattle. Yes, it was loud. Yes, it was the 12th man. There was no reason why the Jets weren't competing in that game. They scored 3 points in that game or 6 points in that game.
Yeah.
You can't sell me. Do you know that the Jets in the last 3 games have scored under 20 points in 3 games?
Yep.
You can't win. You can't win in the NFL if you don't. In 3 games, you only score 20 points.
Yeah, you can't win in the NFL if you score under 20 points in 2 games, nevertheless 3.
So it's embarrassing. The Jets they're going into this offseason. They have to decide what they're doing at the quarterback position. There's a lot of teams going to be looking for quarterbacks, and is Baltimore going to pay Lamar Jackson? Do they franchise him and then trade him and try to get as much as they possibly can for him? Because Lamar Jackson is a franchise quarterback. He is. You can win with Lamar Jackson. He's not been a very good playoff player when you look at his numbers in the couple of playoff games that he's played. But again, I still think you can win with him. There are a couple of quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins signed an extension last year. I think he has 1 more year left on his contract.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. They're going to be, and there'll probably be more quarterbacks that could be available this offseason.
Another one to watch, possibly, if they decide to trade him on a high, who had a pretty good year, is Jared Goff, too. Maybe.
Jared Goff, Kyler Murray could be a trade piece after getting all that money and coming off an ACL. Depending on who the coach is, they could say, you know what? I don't want Kyler Murray. I want to go into the draft again and find my quarterback. Because if you remember, back-to-back years, they went from one quarterback to another. They had the number 1 pick. I still think Kyler Murray could be a good quarterback in this league if they put the right offensive guy in that coaching position as the offensive coordinator. So,
and the other one not to rule out, just because we know we were talking about the ownership with the Dolphins too. If Lamar Jackson becomes a free agent, we know they were linked to them. Maybe Tua gets traded then at that point if they decide to pursue him again and fire McDaniel, and then maybe they go after that.
I think Detroit's going to re-sign Jared Goff. He's had too good of a season, and he's building chemistry with some of the wide receivers that he has over there. St. Brown, it looks like he's a beast of a man.
He's a great player.
Williams is going to be a good player when he plays a full season with St. Brown. They're a good team. They're a good offensive team. Why would they go back into the draft and look for a quarterback when they have a young quarterback there that has been in the Super Bowl, has played for a Super Bowl? I think they re-sign Jared Goff. I don't think he'll be available.
I only say that if they're going to like trade him on a high, if there's a really good offer.
They're not
there.
trading him. Why would you trade a quarterback? You finally found a franchise quarterback. Now, Matthew Stafford was a franchise quarterback. Matthew Stafford's probably going to retire this offseason. He has a spine injury. It's a significant spine injury. And now I'm hearing that he might walk away from the game. And that's why the Rams might decide to bring back Baker Mayfield and with the team. And they have no draft stock for the next 2 or 3 years. So they're really putting all their eggs in their baskets for Aaron Donald, who didn't even want to come back this offseason. They gave him $100 million. I think that was a big mistake by them. And then obviously with Ramsey, Jalen Ramsey's fallen off. We were arguing last year or 2 years ago that Jalen Ramsey was the best corner in the NFL. We were arguing him and Howard. Honestly, both those guys fell off. Howard from Miami and Jalen Ramsey. They're not even elite anymore.
No,
you have rookies.
They're both kind of top, but they're probably like 11 through 20 now at this point, the way they played this year.
You look at where some of these teams are, and they're in cap hell. I mean, the Cowboys are still in cap hell. They're still in cap hell.
Yeah, the Saints are going to be too, and so are the Browns.
The Saints are in cap hell. The Browns are in cap hell. I mean, you go up and down, and all the rosters. Arizona is going to be in cap hell.
Yeah.
Green Bay, unless they trade Aaron
Green
Rodgers.
Bay's a bad cap hell, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams. The Patriots are going to have a lot of money this offseason.
Yep.
They'll be able to go out there and get whoever they want, whoever becomes available. If they want a quarterback that's sitting there, Derek Carr or something like that, they could bring Derek Carr in.
Derek Carr and Josh McDaniels for the Patriots.
No, Josh McDaniels.
No, I know it's a joke. I know he can't get fired. So
I think if there's any possibility Aaron Rodgers goes anywhere, it's Las Vegas. It makes a lot of sense. First of all, Devontae Adams is there. And it's sad because Derek Carr, the reason why Devontae Adams left Green Bay was to play with Derek Carr. Now Derek Carr gets sit for the last 2 games and he's on his way out. Yeah. So if I was Devontae Adams, I'm probably smacking myself in the head, wondering why I didn't stay in Green Bay. Green Bay is possibly going into the playoffs this year again. And with Devontae Adams, they would have even a much better record. You're talking about they probably win 12, 13 games this year if Devontae Adams is on that roster. And they drafted Christian Watson, who looks like he's going to be a player. You finally have your second wide receiver, the guy that you've been looking for to give you this, open up the field and give separation instead of Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams goes over there to Las Vegas. So it's all about the money. Absolutely, Keith. And the question is, the Giants are going to have money this offseason. They could look for a wide receiver. There's a couple of good wide receivers that could be available this offseason if they don't get franchised. So it could go either way. But the coaching disputes for some of these teams, there's definitely going to be openings this offseason. And like I said, this is probably the biggest offseason when it comes to free agent quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks that are going to be available because They're going to be at least 4 or 5 guys that you can say are somewhat franchise quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo, he was a franchise quarterback. Can he be a franchise quarterback? I think you can win with Jimmy. Derek Carr was a franchise quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a franchise quarterback. If I look at some of these quarterbacks,
Brady, if he doesn't retire,
Brady, they're saying that if he does come back, he's not playing for the Buccaneers.
I saw a rumor too. I don't know how legitimate it is. Tom Brady and Sean Payton back on the Saints is a possibility. I don't know how big it is. The Saints need to purge a lot of money.
Why would Sean Payton go back to the Saints?
I don't know. I heard it was an intriguing thing. I don't think he ever disliked the Saints, so I wouldn't be surprised. You're right. I think that he's more leaning towards a Western team like Arizona or one of the LA teams maybe, but I did hear that as a possibility because Sean Payton does want to coach Tom Brady, and that was what the whole Dolphins rumor was last year and why they were tampering for him. So it's definitely a possibility if that's what Brady wants to do. I don't know if that's what Brady wants to do either, but I don't
Carson Wentz is going to be available this offseason again. I mean, that guy has been thrown around like a waste paper basket. And it's a shame because I still think Carson Wentz he's a decent quarterback in the league. I just think if it maybe his personality or he doesn't get along with people on his roster, or I've just heard so many stories on when he was in Indianapolis. The reason why he didn't come back to Indianapolis, which as you could see, Indianapolis made a big mistake. bringing in Matt Ryan. They should have kept Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz was the better option, but they brought in Matt Ryan at the end of his career, and you saw how bad they were this year. And there's a lot of injury problems as well. But when he says, Snug says Carson Wentz is a head case, and Keith says Wentz blows. I don't think Wentz blows. If you look at Wentz's numbers over the last couple of years, even with Indianapolis, and I'm looking right now at Carson Wentz's numbers. Carson Wentz is a pretty good quarterback. He is. I mean, is he an elite quarterback? No, but his numbers are pretty damn good.
Yeah, his numbers were efficient enough last year to qualify at least for
this year. It wasn't good because he barely played.
This year it was only the stretch at the beginning of the season where he looked good, and then once they beat the Eagles, once they beat the Eagles when he got benched, then Heineke came in, and then really it took him a while for him to get it back.
And I didn't like how what's his
Ron
name?
Rivera,
Ron Rivera treated him.
Right.
Ron Rivera treated him wrongly. Okay. He threw him under the bus and tried to blame Carson Wentz on the reason why they couldn't score points, which I think was a crock. Okay. Mm-hmm. You can't point your fingers at one player. This is a team game. Carson Wentz, his numbers are good. I mean, last year he had 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. The year before that with the Eagles, 16 and 15, 27 and 7, 21 and 7, 33 and 7, 16 and 14. I mean, the amount of years that Carson Wentz has played, he's played 3, 6, 7 years. He's got 151 touchdowns and 66 interceptions. Those are good numbers. And his career yards is 22,000. I mean, in 7 years, those are good numbers. So to say that he blows, I don't think he blows. Could you win with Carson Wentz? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think that has kept teams from really taking a better eye on him is he's a lot at the end of the game makes some bad mistakes, and I think that's why his teams haven't been quote unquote winning. Now you're right; it's not all his fault. I don't think it's his fault for the Colts collapsing the way they did entirely either. The whole team struggled against Jacksonville that Week 18 game, and the Week 17 game before that against the Raiders. They lost in a shootout, so that's not all his fault. Keith says he's a backup. Probably.
No, I think he's better than a backup.
Probably, but just based on how many quarterbacks could be available from the draft. But again, I think he's still starting worthy, though, at least as an insurance policy. Yes, Keith. I've always said that about him. Yes, he does throw a lot of interceptions at critical time.
Yes, he does. But a lot of quarterbacks do that. It's not just Carson Wentz.
Phillip Rivers did that in his career.
Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan did it. I mean, we've seen some of these quarterbacks that are Hall of Famers that Peyton Manning did it in a lot of games. Yep. He threw interceptions in very weird times, which cost the Indianapolis Colts games and the Denver Broncos games. So, yeah, I understand. And I'm not calling Carson Wentz Peyton Manning, but no, Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. I think he's better than a backup quarterback. And I can't see how you could. Now, Andy Dalton, you look at his numbers, the Bengals treated him wrong at the end of his career, but they brought in Joe Burrow, and I think that was the biggest move they possibly can. And Joe Burrow has changed that organization for the better. But Andy Dalton was a pretty good quarterback in Cincinnati. That's why he got the money that he got in Cincinnati. Right. Now he's been a journeyman, and that's the problem with these quarterbacks. If you're only good at one thing, it's not going to work in the NFL anymore. You need to be good at many different things if you're going to stay in the NFL and you're going to be considered an elite quarterback. Mm-hmm. So
it's a young quarterback league, so it's going to be a lot harder for these veteran quarterbacks to get on a sustainable, I guess, situation, and that's where you've seen definitely.
I like Carson Wentz, and if you put him in the right position with the right coach, you can win with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz almost won an MVP before he tore his ACL, MCL in Philadelphia.
And I think that's
and then they won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, because he was supposed to be not necessarily like a freak runner like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray, but he was supposed to be able to throw on the run well and extend plays, and that was one of the things since the injuries that has hurt him, and he's developed more into a pocket quarterback, which I think has still hindered him a little bit in terms of taking the step he was supposed to in his development. Yes, Keith, he does have a lot of talent. Nobody's disputing Wentz's talent, and he also says, I like Dalton. Yeah, Dalton's a backup at this point, though, in his career.
Now he is. Yeah. But there are teams out there, a.k.a. the Jets, that can bring Andy Dalton in next year to be your starting quarterback. And you can win with Andy Dalton with the players that they have on this roster. You could. Now, I know a lot of people wanted to throw Zach Wilson under the bus, but I was also looking at numbers that in the last 3 or 4 weeks, none of the wide receivers were getting open. I mean, the numbers the numbers show that the Jets wide receivers were just not getting open. So if they're not getting open, how do you expect the quarterback to get you the ball?
Right.
So I'm just saying.
I mentioned that on the Weekend Crunch too. Besides the running game being the worst thing in a while for the Jets too, the other inconsistency was the number 2 receiver position.
Ever since Breece Hall got hurt, they were not the same.
No, I know that, but even the number 2 wide receiver position too, like they have flashes here and there. Like Corey Davis played well against the Vikings. Elijah Moore played well against the Bears.
I mean,
that's
look
really
what Walker did to the Jets. He completely, cut them apart, cut the Jets defensive line apart when they played in Seattle. He was all over the place. Now, if Breece Hall played in that game probably the last 3 games could have been different. Maybe the Jets win 2 out of the 3 because you can dominate the line of scrimmage, and that's what they did. Breece Hall dominated the line of scrimmage, and losing Elijah Vera Tucker really hurt them too.
Yeah, especially on Seattle because they can't stop the run.
Before we get into our picks, SNY Ian Begley believes the Knicks could be in the market to trade for Zach LaVine. This could be a good move for the Knicks. The Knicks are looking for a star. Zach LaVine is a star. Him going to Chicago, New York is not a big jump in my eyes because they're 2 big basketball cities. Right. The question is Zach LaVine the missing piece that's going to get them over the hump and get them into the Eastern Conference Championship? And that's what you want to see the Knicks go every single year. Do you want them to be a NBA championship contender or Eastern Conference contender? And honestly, they had a chance to bring in Donovan Mitchell, who, by the way, last week I think scored 71 points in a game.
Yep.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell would have been a great pickup for the New York Knicks in the offseason. I would have traded RJ Barrett. I would have traded anybody they wanted to bring in Donovan Mitchell, because if you had him and Zach LaVine and you had those guys to build around, you have something. You bring Zach LaVine in there, you're still missing one more piece that's going to get you over the hump. Yeah. And we've seen Zach LaVine play with better players and good players in Chicago. It never worked. Maybe he's not a team player. Remember, he was drafted by the Timberwolves. He played with Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins. I mean, that was a pretty good team too, but they never got over the hump. Maybe because of stubbornness, maybe because of talent. So I don't know.
Yeah, we wonder too if something like Zach LaVine would work for what the Knicks need to. Now, the Knicks definitely could use a guy that's more of a volume scorer, and they have a better percentage when it comes to shooting threes, but they don't shoot a lot of threes as it is, which LaVine would definitely help with. And you also look at a case too of they maybe having Jalen Brunson there, they don't have to have LaVine handle the ball as much and make some of those mistakes that he did down the stretch in games in Chicago. Because remember, Chicago was a 2nd seed at the All-Star break last year, and they fell off really badly. And then this year, they really haven't recovered since then, too. So him maybe not being that number 1 ball handling option could be a good thing. But if the Knicks can do it where they can move another contract and
they have Jalen Brunson, they got it right with him. If they can bring in Zach LaVine and they had Donovan Mitchell here, you're talking about a good 3 right there. You can win in the Eastern Conference with those 3 guys. Now you have Jalen Brunson. If you bring in Zach LaVine, do you have enough to bring in another star? They had a chance to trade pieces to bring in Donovan Mitchell, who was under still. He had 2 years left on his contract, so you had control of him. So I think they made a big mistake.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see which contract they'll end up moving to, because he got paid a lot of money, LaVine. He got a max contract, and they could move Evan Fournier. Maybe do they do Julius Randle in this kind of deal to maybe trade less of the, I guess you could say, top young players? Because RJ Barrett now signing the contract can't be traded, so he's ineligible. Emmanuel Quigley was the main one brought up in this deal because obviously the Knicks didn't want to trade Quentin Grimes for Donovan Mitchell, so I doubt they're going to do it for Zach LaVine either. And so it seems like it's going to be Quigley or maybe Mitchell Robinson. I don't know, but Mitchell Robinson's played well. I don't know if you want to move him. So it's tough to tell what the Knicks are going to do at this point. I feel like the Bulls are going to try to use the Knicks as leverage and potentially try to garner off for someone else. And we'll see if Leon Rose decides to fight that kind of battle. I would be encouraged by it, but you're right. I wouldn't say it's definitely a missing piece. They probably need one more.
They need one more. I mean, I like Jalen Brunson. I think he's a pretty good point guard. He's proven to be a top 5 point guard this year, but even adding Zach LaVine, and maybe you get rid of Julius Randle, and maybe you get Fournier or somebody like that, and you have a pretty good young team. You don't have enough to compete with the top-heavy teams like the Celtics or the 76ers or any of those teams when they're fighting at full strength. Yeah. I'm surprised Miami has fallen off this year. They've been horrible. And maybe they start trading away pieces. Maybe Pat Riley decides to move Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline. Maybe the Knicks look at Jimmy Butler. He always wanted to play in New York. Yeah. Maybe you bring in Jimmy Butler and Zach LaVine. Then you have a three-man team that you can build around, because then you have Jimmy, you have Zach, and you have
RJ Barrett,
Brunson,
Brunson,
because they would trade RJ Barrett.
Well, no, they can't trade RJ Barrett this year. So
Yes, they can. They can trade him in the second half.
No, the article that Begley actually wrote said RJ Barrett cannot be traded because of the rookie or the new deal restrictions.
Really?
So they would not be able to trade him this year. RJ Barrett is not eligible to be traded. And then he also says he likely assumes Quentin Grimes is off the table based on them not including him for Donovan Mitchell. So they mentioned Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quigley, and
I'm sure the Knicks could go back on that. They trade him for Donovan Mitchell.
I mean, yeah, but right now he's not eligible. The same kind of things why the Nets.
He will be a
Ben
Knick.
Simmons.
Donovan Mitchell will be a Knick when he becomes available at 29 years old. I'm telling you, he will be a Knick. So I'm just saying.
No, down the road he definitely could be, because 3 years into the deal he could opt out. So there's always a possibility of that. But this article that Begley has is Evan Fournier would be the contract they would move. They'd trade Derrick Rose to have him back to Chicago for the nostalgia. The fans would love it, and then the package of young players with picks, because the Knicks have a lot of draft picks too, but they're likely not going to have to trade Quentin Grimes, what it seems like, which is good. I hope that, again, I like the Mitchell trade. I hope they have to trade Obi Toppin in this kind of deal, but we'll see.
All right, Speedy, let's do our picks.
All righty. So Derek did not make it tonight, but he did send our picks. So right now you lead by 5 games over me and 8 games over Derek for the season. So we'll start with the 2 Saturday games, one of which is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek has the Chiefs. I have the Chiefs in this one. The Raiders have played better offensively, but I just can't trust them to win a shootout with the Chiefs.
Derek Carr's not playing. So
yeah.
Obviously they're playing a third or fourth string quarterback. Not a chance in hell. It doesn't matter if it's in Vegas. Kansas City's going to run all over them. I expect them to put up a 40 spot. Give me Kansas City.
All right. Yep, and Derek had the Chiefs as well. And the game to decide the AFC South on Saturday night.
This is going to be a nice game.
The Jacksonville Jaguars and
is Tannehill playing?
Nope,
is Derrick Henry
Josh
playing?
Dobbs. Derrick Henry's playing. Josh Dobbs is starting at quarterback for the Titans. Derek is actually rolling with the Titans. He thinks they will bounce back and snap the horrific losing streak they're on. I do not believe that. I'm going to take the Jags in this one because I do trust their defense to play better. They have played better in recent weeks. They've done a good job at stopping the run too. I know Derrick Henry has a good career track record against the Jags, but it's first game back from the injury. I don't know if he'll have that same impact. And the Jags offense has been playing well. The Titans secondary has really struggled.
I like Jacksonville. Jacksonville will clinch the #1 seed. They'll be the first. This will be the first time in the last couple of years that the Jacksonville Jaguars finally clinch a playoff spot. So I like them. I like Trevor Lawrence. I like what we've seen the last couple of weeks. They've been running the ball very, very well. And they've been throwing the ball very, very well. The offensive line is finally protecting them. And I think Doug Peterson has really changed the offense of this team. So Jacksonville wins this game 21-14.
All right. The Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers need to win this to get into the playoffs, and they need a little help. Derek does not think they will do that. He is on the Browns. I am on the Steelers. I think Mike Tomlin gets the winning season. I think their defense has been impressive since TJ Watt's come back. Cleveland's offense has been up and down since Deshaun Watson's return. So I'm going to take the Steelers in this one, a tight one. I'm going to say 23-17.
I want the Browns to win because I want to see the Jets make it, but I think the Steelers, being that they're home, it's going to be rainy this weekend. The field obviously goes to the home team because they play and they practice over there. And by the way, I like what I've seen so far the last couple of weeks from Pittsburgh. I like their young quarterback. I like what they do running the ball. And Tomlin's always had a winning season. For the last, 10 years in a row, he's had a winning season. So give me Pittsburgh in this game. They win the game 21-17.
All right. The Ravens at the Bengals, and we'll see what the situation entails. Maybe the Ravens and Bengals will play a third time from these rumors we're hearing. Derek has the Bengals in this one. I have the Bengals in this one too. I think this is going to be an emotional game for them going through what they went through.
Is Lamar Jackson playing?
Lamar Jackson seems like he's going to play, but nothing confirmed yet. He did practice limited today, which is a good sign for him. They said he could have maybe came back last week, but even so, I think it's going to be hard for them to get back. I think the Bengals playing emotional with what happened. I think they're going to play for everything that happened with Buffalo. I think this is an inspiration. Give me the Bengals 31-20.
The Bengals need to win this game, especially with the seeded thing and Buffalo. You don't know if they're going to get a win or a loss or a tie. They need this win. Give me Cincinnati in the game. They'll be able to run against Baltimore's defense. The defense has been back and forth all season long, and that's why they added Roquan Smith. the Bengals will win 24-14.
All right, Vikings and the Bears. Derek has the Vikings. I have the Vikings. They finally get a double-digit win to help their cause. The Bears' defense has been awful. Give me Minnesota 35-17.
I got Minnesota too. I mean, the Bears are done, and I mean Justin Fields will play, but it's not going to make really a difference. And by the way, when you look at what Minnesota has done this year offensively, they've been really a home-breaking team. So give me the Minnesota Vikings 31-14.
All right. The New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. Derek did not pick the Jets this week. He is on the Fins, so maybe the Jets have a shot to win. I don't know if you want them to win.
I don't want the Jets to win.
We don't even know if this 18 playoff is actually happening yet.
But I think the Jets are going to win.
You do think they're going to win?
Yes.
I don't. I think Teddy Bridgewater will end up playing in this game, and I do think he does play better because until that interception, I think he was being very efficient against the Patriots too. And I do think the Jets' run defense has been vulnerable in recent weeks, where Miami's going to be able to run the ball a little better too. So I got Miami in this one. Close game. I'm going to say 20-13.
If Teddy Bridgewater plays, I have Miami. If Teddy Bridgewater doesn't play, Mike Glennon's the starting quarterback. Give me the Jets. So that's where I would go with it. So.
All right, Bucks and Falcons. Derek has the Falcons in this one. I'm going to take the Falcons. I think Tampa's going to play a lot of their starters in just the first quarter or something, and then get rid of them at that point. They have nothing to play for. They're locked into the 4th seed. Give me Atlanta, 16-13.
Yeah, it's crazy how Tampa is going to win the division in that very, very weak division. They were horrible all season long, and Tom Brady has a chance to go to another Super Bowl and win at number 8. I think the Falcons win. They're the better young team. I don't believe Tampa's going to play Tom Brady. They're not going to play their starters. It's in Atlanta. The Falcons win 24-17.
All right, Panthers and Saints, kind of a meaningless game. Derek's got the Panthers in this one. I'll take the Saints. They played better in recent weeks. Back-to-back wins against the Browns and Eagles. So I'll take the Saints. I'll say 20-13 as well.
I like Carolina's defense. I really do. All right. They're starting to really, produce the numbers in the second half of the season. But the Saints, being that it's in, I guess, Louisiana, I think the advantage goes to them. Their defense, their secondary has played very well the last couple of weeks. I think it'll be close. It's going to be a very boring game. I have the Saints winning 17-16.
Well, candidate for potentially ugliest game of the year, the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. Hopefully they tie again. That would be funny, but Derek has the Texans. You know what? I'm actually going to agree with that one. I'll take the Texans as well. They've been impressive the last couple of weeks. They beat the Titans. I know they got blown up by Jacksonville. Beyond that, they've played well. So I'll take Houston in 17-16 game.
I got Houston, too, in this game. I think they're a better team than Indianapolis, and I think Indianapolis is trying to go into the draft, find their quarterback of the future because they don't have it.
Yeah. And they don't have a coach either.
No, but they'll find one. They'll be coaches interested in Indianapolis. They always are. So give me Houston. I think it'll be a close game, 21-18.
All right. Cardinals, 49ers. Derek has the 49ers. I got the 49ers too. In a blowout, Arizona's really just all the pressures on Kliff Kingsbury to try to keep his job, and he's not going to do it. Give me the Niners. I'll say 34-20.
Yeah, the Niners. I think they're the best defensive team in the NFL. Offensively, I mean, Purdy's played very well. He hasn't lost a game since he's taken over Jimmy Garoppolo's position. I think you go into the playoffs. You cannot, even if Jimmy Garoppolo is ready to come back, you have to play the hot hand. Purdy is the hot hand. You play the hot hand. But San Francisco wins the final game of the year to go into the playoffs. I think they completely dominate 35-14.
All right, we'll go to the 4:00 games. The Chargers, or that was the first 4:00 games. The Chargers and the Broncos. Derek actually has the Broncos, and I actually am going to agree with him because the Chargers really aren't playing for anything. I like the Broncos the way they played last week. Hung tough with the Chiefs for a while. I think maybe the new coach, they're trying to find something. I don't think he'll stay, but I think they found something. Russell Wilson's trying to prove something too. Give me the Broncos. I'll say a close game. I'll say 27-24.
Yeah, I don't think the Broncos are going to win. Even if the Chargers play their secondary players, I still think the Chargers are a better team. I don't like what the Broncos have produced all season long. Russell Wilson, even though he put up a pretty good game against Kansas City last week, there's something that tells me, and the Chargers still playing for something. They could still play.
They could get the 5 seed.
Yeah,
technically.
They're probably going to play Justin Herbert in this game. So if they do, I think the Chargers win the game. I think it'll be a close game, but they'll win 27-24.
All right. The LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. Derek has the Seahawks. I got the Seahawks as well. I think the Rams, they've hung tough in recent weeks. They obviously blew out the Broncos the way they did, but I think Seattle, their defense against the run is really their only weakness, and the Rams can't run the ball. So I really have a hard time believing they're going to be able to do that. No Cooper Kupp, obviously. So give me Seattle, tight one. I'm going to say 24-20.
It's not a question. Seattle, it's home. Seattle's playing with the 12th man again. LA, it's not in LA, it's in Seattle. And I think that's the big difference right there. And Geno Smith's played very well, even though his numbers didn't show against the Jets last week. He was very persistent, and he did what he needed to do to win the game. I expect him to do the same against an LA Ram team that's just completely beat up. Give me Seattle 24-10.
All right, we'll go to the two NFC East games now. We'll start with the Giants and the Eagles. No diagnosis yet on Jalen Hurts, still listed as questionable.
He's playing.
Derek has the Eagles. I don't think it matters. I think the Eagles will win even if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, because Gardner Minshew did look good against the Dallas defense too. The Giants said they're probably not going to play a lot of their starters as it is. I don't expect them to play a lot on the defensive line. I don't think you're going to see Leonard Williams in this game. I don't think you're going to see Ojulari. And don't be surprised if they don't rest a lot of their secondary guys too. So give me the Eagles in this one. I'm going to say 27-20.
Eagles completely dominate this game. Jalen Hurts will play in this game. They're going to put up a pretty big spot. They need to win this game so they can claim that number one seed, even if they have to play the 8 seed, if there's an 8 seed, and there is no bye week. Give me the Eagles in this game, 31-12.
30-12, nice. All right, the other NFC East game, the Cowboys and the Commanders. Derek has the Cowboys in this one. I think this is going to be a close game. I think once the Eagles start to pull away from the Giants, I think the Cowboys will start resting guys. So I'm actually going to take the Commanders in this one because they played well defensively. Their offense has fallen off in recent weeks, but so has the Dallas defense. I feel like this is going to be a spoiler here. I'm going to take the Commanders to win a tight one, 27-24.
Washington's trying to lose games now because they want a high draft pick, as they're probably going to be looking for a quarterback as well.
Yeah.
Give me Dallas in this game. I expect Dallas to win this game with an absolute blowout, 40-14. I think Dallas is going to completely dominate this game on Sunday afternoon.
All right, and the last one, the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers, Sunday Night Football. Derek is riding with the Packers to complete the hot streak and get into the playoffs. As much as I would love to see the Lions get in, I am going to agree with him. I'm going to take the Packers in this one because their defense has started to play at least respectable at this point. They're still having trouble against the run, so Swift and Williams will get theirs, but I do think Jair Alexander, after shutting down Justin Jefferson last week, will do a lot of the same with Amon-Ra St. Brown, at least to contain him enough. And we've seen when he gets taken away in this offense, they really haven't had much. Jameson Williams hopefully gets on the form at some point, but it's just going to be hard to believe right now. So give me the Packers. I think it'll be close. Give me Green Bay. I'm going to say 30-21.
Oh, I think the Packers are going to win, and they're going to sneak into the playoffs, and they're going to be a team that you're not going to want to play. If you have Aaron Rodgers playing in a dome or playing in a hot area, there's no snow, there's no hard field or terrible special teams. I expect Aaron Rodgers to make a run going into the playoffs this year if he sneaks into the playoffs. They've been one of the hotter teams in the league the last 3 weeks. I expect them to do the same, even with the weak offense that they have. Give me Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, 24-14. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our picks of the week. I have not been healthy over the last day, 24 hours, so we kind of pushed this show pretty fast, and we're going to end the show a little bit early tonight because I've just not been feeling very well. But we'll be back next week on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 9 p.m. Thank you to Tony Casillas, fantastic interview, and Leigh Bodden, who always fun to talk to him as we do. Thank you to Braden Jacobs yesterday, and obviously our friend Mr. Draft. So thank you to all of you guys for joining us this week. Next week we'll have better guests, or not better guests, more interesting guests next week, as we always do. Thank you to all the fans that listen to us. Thank you. Keep tuning into us. Listen to the Weekend Crunch this week on the LI News Radio at 7 p.m., right?
Yep, we're still at 7. I think next week there's a game.
Okay, so 7 p.m. If you don't live out here in Long Island, you can go and check us out on linewsradio.com, or you could check us out on what's the other thing I always talk about?
Tune in radio, iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
Yes.
So you can hear us on iHeartRadio as well. Just look up LI News Radio at 7 p.m. on Saturday nights, and you'll hear the Weekend Crunch. It's a great show, great guests that we have, and great comedy and content. So it's definitely a fun show to listen to. Again, thank you to all the fans. Thank you to all the guests. We'll be back next week. Listen to Game On, the debut of Game On with Josh Silverberg. I'm interested to see how that goes. But yeah, thank you to all the fans as always. We will see you next week. Good night.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat.